The following is a special presentation of TNN Motorsports. So much at stake, so little time. Everything must be perfect. At Toledo Speedway, it's action-packed. Just ask Scott Hansen. Ask Dave Sensiba. At any moment, your chances may vanish. One must stay focused, for all eyes are on the championship. We're live at Toledo Speedway. The Toledo 400 on the high banks of this historic half mile is about to get underway. A great fall afternoon, the first 400-lap race in the latter half of the season for the American Speed Association and the AC-Delco Challenge Series. Point leader Scott Hansen has his work cut out for him on this breezy afternoon. It's only 61 degrees and the sun is coming in and out of the clouds. The breeze is picking up anywhere between 10 and 15 degrees. Drivers say it won't affect their performance down these long straightaways at Toledo Speedway. Good afternoon, I'm Jim Tredo alongside Dave Burns, and Dave talking about the championship. Scott Hansen, dominant here, sets himself right on the pole.
Well, Hansen had to get those 5 extra points coming into here because he knows there's only a few races left in 1996. He went out, did the fastest lap for today's race, and gained 5 points on Tony Raines. He's now 13 points ahead of him. Gary St. Amant sits 41 points back in third place. Bob Sineker 45 points back. All of these drivers a realistic chance to win the championship. Dave Sensiba, outside hope at this point, but if he can get a couple of victories here later, he'll do well as well.
Three-time winner Kevin Sawinski has moved up to 6th position. You see Joe Knott and Brad Loney. Loney's still in search of his first win. Is 9th in points, and Tony Roper has climbed into the top 10. Good run for that Missouri driver in this latter half of the season. A couple of drivers that are up front are Scott Hansen and Gary St. Amant. They've gained points through qualifying. Well, unfortunately, Bob Sineker is starting 18th this afternoon.
Jimmy had one of the best finishes here at Toledo ever when he beat Todd Forbes to the flag in '92 by only a foot. But as you say, today he'll start in the back. But they call him the sneaker, so I don't think we'll have too much trouble seeing Bob work his way back up to the front before the day's over.
The most recent winner in the American Speed Association is Tony Raines, winning last weekend. His first win of the season, climbing to within, again, 13 points of Scott Hansen.
Man, how would you like to be Tony Raines last week when they were running at Cedar Rapids, coming out of the turn 4 for the checkered flag, and Brett Bell and Terrell Muscadin are sitting right there. He dives to the inside, takes the checkers. Everybody else goes to the inside, except Kevin Sawinski goes high, scrapes the wall, and comes through with a good finish as well. But that was really something for them.
There was also a late race caution that cost Scott Hansen some position. Now let's join Sandy Hang down on the grid.
Well, this moment was a critical moment for Scott Hansen when sheer determination is more important than any other factor in the race. The upper A arm just flat out snapped on the left front, and Scott did more than just limp the car around the track. He stayed in the hunt, keeping the car there. The way he was able to do it was the broken part jammed into the spring. It kept the car steady, and Scott kept the car going to the finish line. What are you thinking today as you sit on the pole?
Well, you know, Toledo's been good to us. We just need to keep all 4 wheels working for us. Car's running really good. You know, teaser engine run just super. You know, that's been a lot of our success for the poles this year. And, you know, the guys from Penske Shock, the shock absorbers have turned into such a key factor in these race cars. You know, I got to give Alan and Bob big credit for that because they did us a good job here.
Well, you know, Raines is not far behind you. He wants this victory, and then you're elbow to elbow with Gary St. Amant. How do you keep those guys in your mirror?
Well, hopefully that's where they'll stay, is in the mirror. You know, we get around here pretty good. You know, we've discussed it a bunch of times. You know, we're just going out here to win these races, you know, and I think everybody will just run their hardest, and the best guy will win it when it's all over.
Okay, that's Scott Hansen sitting on the pole.
And with Hansen's successes here, Gary St. Amant will have to keep him in his sights. Ford now currently leading the Manufacturers' Championship points.
And Jim, this is the time of year when all the drivers are trying to decide what kind of the marker they're going to run next year. Winning the points championship for the manufacturers would be a nice impetus to choose Ford or Pontiac, depending on who ends up on top.
Pontiac has scored the last 2 Manufacturers' Championships for the season, and you see Ford is leading narrowly by wins and points. Again, they award points to the top 3 finishers in each and every AC-Delco Challenge Series event. Now, qualifying was quite interesting. Mike Miller had one of the fastest cars in practice day, but when it came to qualifying, he was third quick, but it came in second round qualifying.
Yeah, second round qualifying in the ASA means that you had something wrong with the car. In Mike's case, they had a problem with the rear end. They had to send it back in, bring him back out, and qualify in second round. He qualified third overall, as you mentioned, but they have to start him 11th. He'll start on the inside of row number 6.
And putting together a great qualifying effort was Brad Loney, the Cedar Rapids, Iowa driver, coming off a 5th place finish at his home track last Sunday. The Flex Steel H&W Motors car is extremely fast here. However, there is a certain grid time that the teams must meet. Brad Loney's team was late getting his car to grid. That will force Brad Loney and his entire operation, along with 7 other teams, to the back of the grid for the start of the race. So we'll see him drop back before we go green. To do the honors, once again, let's send it back down to Sandy Hang with a very special guest.
A very, very special guest indeed is here. Indy legend, Gordon Johncock. I tell you what, this is a great honor to have you here. Let's get things going.
Oh, thank you very much. Gentlemen, start your engines.
Go, go, go.
The engines are fired. 400 laps at Toledo Speedway. You don't want to go anywhere. It's going to be an awesome race here on TNN. The AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by Win Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's wins, it works. By your GM Goodwrench service dealer. We want your business. And by Lava Hansel, pumice-powered lava, cleaning hands that make America strong. As you can see, the cars are on the backstretch here. 18 degrees to banking in these very high bank sweeping turns. Scott Hansen on the pole. Gary St. Amant outside row 1. Scott Hansen, a series-leading 4th career pole position this season. Besting his track record in qualifying. He's the fastest car ever here in an ASA sanctioned race. Qualifying at over 111 miles per hour. Outside of him, Gary St. Amant, Dave.
Row number 2, Brad Loney, who will move to the back after his best qualifying start of the season. And then Steve Holshausen on the outside. He's only run half the races this year. He has 1 win and 1 pole to his credit.
In row 3, Kenny Irwin Jr., a great qualifying run. He's done well here at Toledo Speedway and ASA competition. We'll follow his efforts. And Kevin Sawinski, or is it Win-Win-Win-Ski?
We figured that out last week. After his 3 wins, Ted Smokestad looking for his first win. He is 11th in points. He could easily be 10th by the time he finishes this season. And Mike Eddy, the 7-time champ, he is behind Ted Smokestad in the points. Jim, he's 12.
You've already seen the car of Tony Raines. He qualified inside row 5. Outside of him, Dennis Berry taking over the Eaglewood construction team. He'll start the number 15 in the 10th position.
Row number 6, Mike Miller with 2 wins in the 1996 season. And J.D. Summers, he always runs fast at Toledo Speedway.
In row 7, we'll find Joe Knott, winner once this year, and Dave Sensiva still in search of his first win, the 1994 Pat Sharma Memorial Rookie of the Year winner.
In row number 8 on the inside will be Mike Garvey. They completely rebuilt his car after Rick Beebe wrecked it last week at Cedar Rapids. On the outside, Tony Roper, 6 top 10s. He is 10th in the points.
Starting 17th will be Sturgis, Kentucky driver Bill Baird in a Chevrolet. Outside of him, the sneaker Bob Seneca will have to do it today from 18th starting position.
Starting 19th and 20th on the grid, Buddy Schrock, another appearance in 96. He's done well so far. And Jack Landis still trying to work his way back into the top 2 in rookie points. He's currently outside of that mark.
In row 11, we find Harold Fair, who's going to be admitted into the Michigan Motorsports Hall of Fame come November, and Carl Muscatine, rookie challenger out of Indiana.
Row 12, we find on the inside Tom Jones, a zero hero after a flip last week. He's back on all 4 this week, and Yale Conley to his outside.
Starting 25th after the qualifying race is Todd Forbes, back in ASA competition the first time in 1996, and Andy Bozell, a Kalamazoo Speedway champion.
Row number 14, Brett Bell will start on the inside of his Ford, and outside of him, Ed Cooper, the part-time college professor from Michigan.
Row 15, we find Alec Pinson out of Windsor, Ontario, Canada, and Pat Bordeaux, his first effort this season in 1996 in a Chevrolet.
Starting row number 16, Dennis Lampman on the inside. Outside of him, Robbie Pyle in the beautiful maroon number 62 Pontiac.
And as they line up row 17, it'll be Bob Dorstwitz out of Watervliet, Michigan, and Dave Doran, the road racer out of Cincinnati.
In the 18th row, Billy Turner in a former Mike Eddy Pontiac, and on his outside, Aaron Huff also in a Pontiac.
And that's how the field will run. Again, we mentioned Brian Loney will have to drop to the back of the pack. Other drivers as well will have to file into the rear of the field. We're looking at Alan Pinsino, Bob Dorstwitz, Todd Forbes, Billy Turner, Pat Bordeaux. All these drivers will have to drop to the tail of the field because they missed the scheduled grid time, along with Brad Loney, Harold Fair, and Aaron Huff. 36 cars in this race for 400 circuits, Dave, and as we mentioned, the manufacturer points might be favoring the Fords, the Chevrolets and the Pontiacs.
They've certainly got the Fords outnumbered here today. A lot of drivers feel the heavier Ford motor actually is better on the Toledo Speedway than one of the flat tracks.
We'll see if Scott Hansen can record his 4th victory. Get down to the final 2 turns here before we go green to start the Toledo 400. Dogfight all afternoon, and Hansen and St. Amant start the initiation fees with getting a little bit of a bump and rub in turns 3 and 4 in the opening circuit. It's not yet decided who's going to lead early on here. St. Amant a half car length advantage.
Jim, I couldn't tell who had the lead at the stripe that time. They were dead even as Gary and Scott came across the line.
Gary St. Amant, the win sport, now making a wider run on this racetrack. He's trying to stay outside of Scott Hansen, but initially what he's trying to do is trying to gain a position ahead of Scott and have Scott drop back, but he's not having anything to do with it. 5 points to the driver who leads a lap, 5 points to the driver who leads the most laps. Hansen has led more laps here than any other driver.
Again, this is the points battle. Scott Hansen is in first, and now Gary St. Amant is in third in the points, so they're fighting for every point that they can get as they come out of turn number 2.
Here's the battle for 4th. Inside is Steve Holtzhausen, outside is Kevin Sawinski, 2 Wisconsin drivers. Running behind Kenny Irwin, the open wheel star, who currently leads the USAC midget points. He had a 9th place finish here 1 year ago that solidified his ride on a limited basis in ASA.
Yeah, he's driving for Bud Gavin just a few shows this year. Qualified 5th today. A great performance for him.
And as Irwin and Holtzhausen shake it out single file, we find Ted Smokestad getting in the mix, also bypassing Sawinski. Sawinski qualified 6th, and it appears that the outside line is not suiting the Brown and Sharp Chevrolet early on.
They're going to try that from time to time today, Jim. Yesterday in the qualifying race, Pat Bordeaux actually passed about 4 cars on the outside at car number 44. He's going to have to do that a lot, as he's doing from the back of the pack today, but they'll try it from time to time. Doesn't look to be fast for Kevin right now.
And these drivers are being very cautious. A number of competitors, including the guys towards the back of the starting grid, are worried about cautions early. We have our first one, Kenny Irwin, getting some help, and Bob Seneker involved. And aftermath, Seneker and Mike Garvey make contact. Irwin spinning over in turns 1, 3, and 4 will bring out the first caution of the afternoon here in the Toledo 400. Just 7 laps are in it, Dave. That's exactly what the competitors didn't want to see. They're fearful with as much close competition and 36 cars in the racetrack. It could have been a lot worse than what it was.
This is one of the fastest tracks on the ASA circuit, so things happen here very quickly, and they happen all day long. This is a 400-lap race, so there's a long time to be contested here, and they want to, you know, for guys like Brad Loney, who had to start in the very back, this is exactly the kind of thing that they were worried about.
There's Kenny Irwin again. He righted his car, and where he dropped in line is where he will start on the restart. He will not drop to the tail of the field. We know Bob Seneker has some front end damage. We'll take another look here, Dave, and it was happening just ahead of Steve Holtzhausen.
Well, Holtzhausen was being slowed down by Kenny Irwin. The leaders were starting to get away. We knew he was getting a little bit impatient there. Hard to tell what happened from that angle. We'll see if we can get it from the get-go, but obviously Holtzhausen right there where Irwin was.
May have been some contact between the front and rear bumpers of those 2 cars. Again, battling for 4th. We see Smokestad in view, but yep, Irwin and Holtzhausen do make contact here. Smokestad, a heads-up move, goes to the bottom as his anticipatory move to the inside paid off, because if Irwin stayed down low, it could have been a lot worse. Bob Seneker involved in the incident as well with Mike Garvey is in the pit area. Sandy?
Well, as you can see from his car, he does have some body damage on the right front. His crew is trying to cut it away right now. They don't think anything else is damaged. They're hoping it's just cosmetic. If that's the case, it should be no problem for Seneker. Of course, the aerodynamics will be affected, but knowing Seneker, it's not going to matter. He can stay in the hunt if they can get it back out on the track.
The red front fender, oh, so critical on these AC-Delco Challenge Series cars. Fiberglass bodies, that's a critical maneuvering device. Make sure you can stay in this heavy traffic. Under our first caution, we'll break away, come right back to Toledo Speedway. Back at Toledo Speedway in the AC-Delco Challenge Series, Scott Hansen leads under caution very early here, but a problem for Bob Seneker. Let's get back to the pits with Sandy Hang.
He is back in because those two tubes, the ducts that cool the brakes, they're pinched off, they're in the way. His crew is just going to rip those out if they can to help him out. Also, our leader, Scott Hansen, on the radio has been complaining that when he hits the gas, the car is bogged down. They think it could be a carburetor float problem. They don't know. A float may be malfunctioning. We'll have to watch that one for you.
Dave, it's very critical to keep that gas pedal on the mat coming through the corner, getting in and out is very critical here. Again, half the racetrack is turn, half is straightaway, but straightaway speeds here are very, very serious to be worried about if you don't have the right pickup problem.
Well, using the gas pedal or the throttle is part of car control, and down on the inside, this track is very rough. If the cars get upset at all, the driver wants to be able to have that throttle pedal to help correct the car. And with a V6, you get a little bit less than you do in a V8, so it's already down a bit from what you might have if you're running a V8.
500 horsepower V6 engines coming to life here off of turn number 4. Our first restart on lap 13. We'll have Hansen leading single file. Green flag is back out.
That's a very good start for Scott Hansen under the circumstances. Gary St. Amant, if he had known, Jim, if he was monitoring our broadcast, might have had a chance to jump in there, but Scott with a great start to put his Monte Carlo back out front.
Hansen knows this racetrack. St. Amant, I believe, is content to follow after that early race tussle. They didn't want to give up that lead position. St. Amant finally settling back in, learning from Scott Hansen early on, and it will take 400 laps around this racetrack to survive and hope for a great finish. In third is Ted Smokestad. A good job for the Super America Pontiac driver in search of sponsorship next season. Hansen has led 725 laps on the season, leading everybody else in that category. Here's the battle for 8th. Again, Kevin Swinski dropping back a bit. J.D. Summers in his third ASA start this year. The Summers Marine Ford to the inside. The 22, and Summers will make it stick.
Great move by Summers. He was patient with Kevin Sawinski. Sawinski gave him plenty of room. He's going to get hung out there a bit now. Jimmy started 6th today. He's already lost about 3 positions.
And J.D. Summers has had a good run here as well, and he's run top 10 in qualifying and top 10 in the finishes in his limited ASA schedule.
Both Dave Senspa and Mike Miller in the AFC 1000 Pontiac get underneath Sawinski. Now he drops back down in front of Joe Knott. We'll try to protect that position a bit as Senspa and Miller move up toward the front.
Well, there's action all over the racetrack here as we see Summers again single file ahead of Senspa. Senspa 5th in points, wants to keep the fenders on the car for certain. Now working outside of Robbie Pyle out of Columbus, Ohio, going a lap down in his Pontiac. The 37 car is driven by Aaron Huff, who had some grid problems with his car. Count Spa said, if you have ignition problems, my car is here, he can use it. They've been able to qualify for the event, letting the Indiana driver start this car for obvious reasons, points and otherwise. And we go caution for Andy Bozell. Finding the wall in turn number 2 will slow the pace in the DeVru Chevrolet.
Andy, a second-generation driver from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Originally, his father, Gordy Bozell, used to contest a Volkswagen Carmen Ghia, if you can believe that, Jim, when they used to run those back out at Galesburg Speedway, and I imagine he was champion out there once or twice. Andy's done very well in the western Michigan area, growing up on the short tracks.
And Andy had just come in for a pit stop in that last caution, and we also see Joe Knott heading down pit lane and Robbie Pyle, so we'll continue to monitor that progress. And Dave, the leader, was coming hard on Andy Bozell.
Bozell trying to stay out in front, not to go a lap down this early, but boy, Jim, he did a straight dart upwards without any contact from Hansen. We'll have to check in with Sandy and see if anything actually broke on that car.
The angle he went, he just scuffed the wall, so it's good news there. And the hood goes up on Joe Knott's car, and they go to work on Andy Bozell's car. We're coming right back to Toledo, Ohio, at Toledo 400. Two quick cautions have slowed the pace early on here in the Toledo 400. Scott Hansen wrestled the lead away from Gary St. Amant on the third circuit, and both drivers have scored the 5 bonus points for leading a lap. They're in the title chase for the championship, and let's take a look at why we're under this second caution.
Andy Bozell is high up in the groove, Jim, as Kevin Sawinski goes down underneath, and we already saw that Scott Hansen was the leader, was right behind him when this happened. Report from the pits now, upper control arm on the 83 car, so really nothing he can do except a good job to save it.
And you see Bozell knock the right front in. It looks like it's maybe terminal for that team, looking to run Jennerstown and perhaps Kenley. Maybe a limited run next year, even Rookie of the Year hopes for this team. Again, the Kalamazoo, Michigan champion driver out of it early. We're going back to green flag racing. Hansen leading it, Gary St. Amant. Early reports, Hansen had a carburetor problem. Perhaps he felt the floats were not functioning properly. Hansen continues to lead out, and unfortunately for Kevin Sawinski, he may have a tire going down or something along that line, and we have a spin over turn 2. Holy cow.
Look at Mike Garvey's car. We're going to find out which person he got into. They were bunching up big time, Jim, as Billy Turner now pulls the 58 down in the apron. But they were bunching up because there were slower cars on the inside. They were trying to go by on the outside. There's a rule in ASA that when the green comes out, you can't pass on the inside until you cross the start-finish line. And they're still kind of working that out. All the drivers have to kind of feel their way through this new rule, and it got stacked up heavy as they went into turn number 1 that time.
What a break for Kevin Sawinski on the restart. He was acting like he threw the anchor out. I think he had a tire going down. He could not get through turns 1 and 2 properly. The driver, who is all but locked up Rookie of the Year title, is now lining up to enter the pit lane, and unfortunately for Mike Garvey, it's the second incident already. He and Billy Turner getting together in turns 1 and 2, and a heavy damage on the designated hitter Chevrolet, excuse me. And they have continuing problems in the Hodges Motorsports pit.
Here comes Kevin Sawinski's problems. Here's where he's slowing down, and they're stacking up behind him. Kenny Irwin and Tony Roper on the outside. Bill Baird looking for a place to go. They dive around him, and also down on the inside, Aaron Huff tries to make his way by. Sawinski was a big traffic problem for everybody back there.
Right rear tire down on Sawinski's number 1 Brown and Sharp Chevrolet. He's now down on pit lane. We see that Mike Garvey stayed on lead lap, took some body panels off. And unfortunately, Joe Knott comes into this race 8th in points. He's standing with Sandy Hang.
Looks like you got quite a problem here, Joe. You're out of the car. What's going on?
Well, it's something mechanical in there. We're not sure whether it's really mechanical or fuel. You know, we're kind of upset. You know, it's the 3rd bad race we've had in a row, but we're still hanging in there. We're going to get this thing back out there and tally up some laps, keep our points going. So Alan Knott, Raby Ford, Valvoline car, you know, we're here. We're happy about this weekend. Just something unfortunate that we weren't expecting. Nothing you can detect. It just happened. So we'll get back out there and tally up some points.
Okay, that's Joe Knott hoping to get his car back out on the track for this one.
Good to hear. We'll try to get out and get some more points. And he was very much in the hunt for the win here back in May. On May 5th, he was running with the lap car and made contact, heavy contact there. So the racetrack itself has not been too kind to the Columbus, Ohio, the Lima, Ohio native.
We saw Bob Sineker working his way to the back of the pack. He came in and out of the pits, and he rejoins at the tail of the field.
See if Hansen has any throttle problems this time, picking up the pace off of turn number 4. The green flag waves. Mike DeVitt has the field go underneath the flag stand, and we're back to racing on lap 31.
While you saw Scott hug low to block Gary's progress down on the inside, he couldn't have passed him legally, but he sure would have set him up for after the start-finish line, but Scott blocked that up completely.
Here's the battle for 7th, and the 15 car is Dennis Berry now taking over for Brandon Sperling, who left the team, and the 22 of J.D. Summers. So Dennis Berry, who has many laps here in a super late model, really making this Pontiac work. The Murray's Discount Auto Parts, 15 up to 7th now.
Yeah, Dennis is very happy to be back in an ASA car, and he brought Murray's with him to this team, put a little money into the operation that way, and got himself a good ride in the 15 car. We'll see if he can finish it out today as well as he started.
There's Tony Raines winning last weekend at Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Now trying to hang on to this position here right behind Mike Eddy. Eddy suffering through 7 DNFs this season. Has not finished on the lead lap, Dave, since back in July at La Crosse Speedway.
You know, Mike is forever just sort of ho-hum about that. He knows it's just racing, and he comes here expecting to win again. Had a decent qualifying run today and doesn't expect to be anywhere near the front by the time things are over today.
Steve Holtzhausen in 4th. Then we see the 88 of Mike Eddy in 5th position, the GM Goodwrench Service Pontiac. See the shade as the fall colors start to turn slightly here in Ohio. Trees line the back straightaway, which don't make it a real problem for the drivers to see, but it does take a little bit of adjusting to do to the eyeballs once those cars go down the backstretch to pick up the colors. And fall colors again will change, and especially when we go to Jennerstown Speedway in a couple of weeks, the colors in the Pennsylvania area is wonderful.
This is a big battle for 3rd. Ted Smokestad holds the position right now. He's about 20 car lengths, though, behind 2nd running Gary St. Amant. So all these guys are battling just almost a half straightaway behind the leader, who is still Scott Hansen.
There you see the difference there. Smokestad by 2 car lengths over the 5 car of Steve Holtzhausen. Now there's a little contact as Mike Eddy makes way and finds the inside line. Here's Billy Turner in the pits.
Jim, this is a story. Billy Turner bought a car from Mike Eddy, and Mike wasn't going to sell it to him till the end of the season, but Billy kind of, you know, prodded him along a little bit and said, Mike, I'd really like to get a few races in 1995 before you sell that to me. let's not wait that long. And unfortunately, he's got big problems on the front end, overheating for Billy Turner.
And Holtzhausen now being able to stretch it out just a bit over Tony Raines as the field strings out. Hansen now getting again through lap traffic, running 10 car lengths better than Gary St. Amant. This is the battle here as we find the 15 car of Dennis Berry now in what appears to be leading an entire locomotive down the back straightaway here. Again, it's a 40-foot wide racetrack, but it's very, very quick.
Dennis Berry rides along in 7th. J.D. Summers right behind him. And then, like you say, the rest of the field.
Berry out of Clio, Michigan.
I think it is actually Clio.
Clio.
We had a discussion about that. I grew up there, near there, but I can't tell you for sure. I think it's Clio.
Now,
little
J.D.
contact.
Summers, yeah, putting the hammer down. Using that front bumper on that Ford Thunderbird. Now he goes to the outside of Berry. First race for Dennis Berry and the Eaglewood team.
Look at Buddy Schrock coming up on the outside now, just behind this battle. Here's Sinspa. He's going to look for that same opening on the outside of Berry. And then Mike Miller and Buddy Schrock side by side coming out of turn number 4.
In the May race, Buddy Schrock qualified in the 9th position and ran with the leaders all day. He had a problem early on, but regathered and really ran well. So the team Unidial Chevrolet marching his way through, happy to follow Sensiba. And now Hansen slowing on the racetrack. Scott Hansen has taken the car to the inside line. Gary St. Amant goes around rather easily. Hansen, the point leader, definitely has a problem. He slows now to turn number 3. He's definitely not under full power.
Hoping for a caution. It doesn't look like one is going to come up. He's not pulling it in, Jim, and I can't tell if that was Billy Turner or Scott Hansen who sounded sour that time by.
Last time Scott Hansen had a problem was Lancaster Speedway, where he limped it home, and it was not a great racing day for the All-Star Racing team, and today they can't afford to have a bad day. So Hansen, finishing 23rd with motor problems at Lancaster, comes here hoping for a win at a track he's won 3 of 7 races that he's competed in, and now he's drifting back through the field. Sandy Hang, is there anything from the Hansen pit?
Well, they're pretty stone-faced right now. I tell you what, they're not happy, but they do believe he lost the cylinder. Nothing they can do about it, really.
Well, Jim, if Scott continues to motor around out there, trying to get as many laps as he can.
J.D. Summers and Billy Turner make heavy contact in the first turn. Summers and Billy Turner both riding a rope to the wall, and Turner was there first. Summers also heavy front-end damage.
We can see Billy remove the steering wheel. That is good news. That car was already damaged a little bit from earlier contact. J.D. Summers had a clean car before this, Jim. Now it is trashed on the front end.
Turner was spending some time in the pits trying to work on that overheating problem coming back out. This is the problem area in turn number 1. Very narrow entry, and Turner and Summers made, as you said, Dave, understatement, heavy contact. Summers goes to the pits. Turner stays up on the racetrack. And our 4th caution flag is flown. 47 laps complete in the Toledo 400. We'll find out if Scott Hansen can make this work under caution to get back to the front. The drama continues to build here as Billy Turner's early problems force him to come back out on the track many laps down. He gets into J.D. Summers. They make contact. Billy is out of the car. He did walk to the ambulance under his own power, but it was not a pretty sight. As we take a look at it, we find Billy Turner and J.D. Summers both getting hard into the turn 1 and 2 wall. You see the top of the screen there, Dave.
Turner may have been out of shape before J.D. hit him. It looks like all of Summers' impact is from hitting Billy Turner, whereas Turner, we mentioned earlier, had an altercation and now has additional damage to the front end of that Howe chassis. Jim, if Mike Eddy's been helping him learn how to race this thing, I guarantee you he's going to be asking you a few questions about how to straighten out a Howe chassis after this.
And trying to straighten things out on pit lane is the point leader, Scott Hansen. Sandy Hang?
Well, at first they were kind of hoping that it would be a plug wire, but it turned out that that's not the case. They are now thinking it might be a valve problem, the valve train underneath. They're looking at all of that. They're sure hoping they can get it straightened out and get Scott back out there, but it may take some time here.
And they were hoping that with the brand new freshened motor that they ran at Lakeland, Florida earlier this year, he sat on the pole there. He sits on the pole this afternoon. Scott Hansen with the quickest qualifying run. Really looking forward to this race. Unfortunately, experienced some problems, only 52 or so laps into the event. And we'll get the signal now that there's one more circuit of green, or one more circuit of caution before we go back to green. Gary St. Amant's leader. Ted Smokestad is 2nd. Mike Eddy runs 3rd. In 4th is Steve Holtzhausen. 5th is Tony Raines. 6th is Dave Sensiba. 7th is 35 of Buddy Schrock. Running 8th is Mike Miller. 9th, the 10 car of Tony Roper. All up to 11th is the 26 of Bill Barrett. In 13th is Kenny Irwin Jr. in the Wins Pontiac. 14th is Jack Landis. 15th, Brad Loney. 16th, Carl Muscat. 17th, Brett Bell. 18th, Dennis Lampman. 19th at this point is Todd Forbes. And 20th to this point is Harold Fair in the AC-Delco Pontiac. Looking for the green flag to get the restart, and we will have it. And St. Amant will grab that lead and take it into turn number 1. Again, 18 degrees the banking. A lot of equipment will get fatigued over these 400 laps. We'll see if St. Amant wants to check out and lead a bunch of laps here, or indeed if he wants to play cautious and keep Smokestead in the mirrors just enough so he doesn't have to pressure too hard. And now we find problems in turns 3 and 4 in the restart. Bob Dorstwitz goes to the infield. Brett Bell and Dennis Lampman make contact over in turn 3 on the restart. Again, a very bunched up accordion-like effect going on there. Pat Bordeaux also spun momentarily, so Brett Bell's problems
continue.
Recur.
Man.
Unfortunately, the Wonder Bar Ford getting tapped by Lampman, getting clipped by another vehicle, and it's just too close over there in turns 3 and 4. The leader dictates the speed of the restart. It looked like a fairly clean start to me, but as the cars continue to accordion, they kind of rubber band. They get stretched out, and they come right back up to the rear bumper of the driver in the restart ahead of them. Sometimes they get a little too close.
You got drivers ready to go, and you've got spotters yelling clear, clear, and you've got people going on the outside of Bob Dorstwitz, giving him the pressure to stay down low. And boy, Jim, it looks like Bob just kind of loses it down in that low line. It is very bumpy down there.
Touch with Mike Miller, sending him to the grass area, which sent off a couple of drivers spinning, including Brett Bell and Dennis Lampman behind this incident in turn 3.
You know what, though? Bob missed all the AC-Delco banners, Jim.
Well, let's hope they stay up throughout this race today. 5 cautions in this Toledo 400 have already slowed the pace. Back with you with Gary St. Amant at the point in the Wins Burke Transfer Ford. As you can see, Scott Hansen had some problems. His car is still in the pit area. Brett Bell has peeled the front bodywork off of his Ford Thunderbird under our 5th caution. We see Kenny Irwin, who was involved with the first spin of the day, sitting back in the 12th position now, and we'll see if he can get back up towards the front again, leading the USAC points. He finished 4th in the Four Crown Nationals last evening at Eldora in Rossburg, Ohio.
Running a 2nd Wins car today. His partner, Gary St. Amant, he's up front. He's still got the lead, Jim.
Back to green flag racing. St. Amant, your leader, came into this race 40 points out. He's now 41 markers behind Scott Hansen, who labors in the pit area. Ted Smokestead running in the 2nd spot. Mike Eddy runs 3rd. In 4th is that black number 5, the Red Baron pizza car of Steve Holtzhausen. He and Tony Raines somehow seem to find each other on the racetrack and run lap after lap together. Today is no different. The AC-Delco Challenge Series stop number 17 out of 20 for 1996.
Jim, we got an update from the pits on Billy Turner. He has a bruised right shoulder from that impact in turn number 1. So we saw him holding his arm and to support that shoulder, which apparently is bruised. But he's okay otherwise. He's up and walking around.
Good news indeed. 5th place, Tony Raines. 6th is Dave Sensiba in the West Michigan Chevrolet dealers Chevrolet, and it's heating up front, Dave. It looks like the 32 car of Smokestead not quick enough for Mike Eddy. He wants to make a move.
2 Pontiacs duking it out, and Ted has not been able to ride the back bumper of leader Gary St. Amant yet. He's basically been sitting back there in 2nd, so Mike Eddy's saying, hey, enough of this. I'm going to move my way up to the front.
These leaders have broken away to a 10-car length cushion now. St. Amant leading Smokestead and Mike Eddy down the backstretch. Into turn number 3 now. Engage in the bank, and these guys can really carry the speed through here. 16 seconds flat on a half mile.
Now we'll keep our eyes on this upper groove. It's obviously longer, and that's one of the reasons Mike Eddy's going to make this pass for 2nd. But Smokestead really didn't contest the low groove. He's been running up on the high side in the Super America Pontiac, giving the low line to Mike Eddy. And we'll see if he drops in and goes as low as Mike, but he appeared to be kind of testing out that high line.
Mike Eddy now moves into 2nd. GM Goodrich Service Pontiac driver has led in 9 different races this season. 2 victories on the year, but as we mentioned, quite a bit of problems have haunted this team throughout the season. He's 12th in points coming into this event out of the championship hunt.
Well, one thing you know if you're a Mike Eddy fan is that he either dominates or he's out of the race, Jim. There's no two ways about it.
In fourth, we find Steve Holtzhausen. Fifth is Tony Raines. Sixth, Dave Sensiba. Seventh, Mike Miller. And eighth, up from where? Holy cow, Buddy Schrock is on a move. He started 19th, Dave. He's now up into the top 10.
Buddy Schrock is one of the most fun guys to talk about racing in the Team Unidial Chevrolet. He loves this stuff. In fact, if you look on his upper door panel above the driver's side, it doesn't say Buddy Schrock. It says Speed Racer.
He and his brother Donnie have a great time, albeit they're very limited on funds right now. They want to get some sponsorship together and continue racing, but Buddy is an excellent racer here and belongs in the AC-Delco Challenge Series.
You know, Jim, I was talking to him yesterday, and he told me, I asked him, Buddy, you know, when you go down the straightaway, do you relax a little bit on the steering wheel like most guys, you know, give your fingers a rest and that kind of thing? He said, no, Dave. He said, since I've been out of racing for about 10 years, I'm hanging onto that steering wheel the entire time around the track. I'm still getting my feet wet, getting back in the seat.
Now Sensiba and Mike Miller go at it. The battle is for sixth position. We see Tony Raines there in fifth. Coming into the points, Raines was second in points. He's now in the fifth position. Scott Hansen continues to have problems in the pits. If you're following along with us, the AC-Delco Challenge Series, only 45 points separating the leaders heading into today's event. Bob Seneker had problems early on. His right front brake is out. He's now back at 23rd, and there's a problem up in turns 3 and 4. No problem thus far for Gary St. Amant, the Wins Ford driver, who's third in points and leading this event. Gary St. Amant's teammate in the Wins colors, Kenny Irwin Jr., unfortunately bringing out our sixth caution flag of the day.
Jim didn't see what happened. He ended up in between turns 3 and 4 on the high side, no contact with the wall, and everyone was able to scoot by on the bottom side. Interesting now to watch and see the pit strategies this early on. Guys may try to outguess each other and actually go for an early pit stop. One of those guys looking like it might be Steve Holtzhausen.
Taking a look at it, looks like Brad Loney and the 14 of Irwin get together. Loney had got up to 13th position after starting at the rear of the field. Again, he qualified third, had to drop back on his way through. Might have made contact with the back bumper of that Wins Pontiac. You
know, this is a tough series, Jim. I'm getting the feeling that maybe no one has any respect for the USAC possible champion this year so far today. If he's in their way at all out there, these guys are racing for points and money. And if Kenny Irwin is any bit slower, I bet they're just giving him a little bit of a help, shall we say, to help him get their position.
Well, Irwin did help himself by getting back up into the 12th position, but didn't pay off this time, as now we see Dave Doran in the 77 has problems. He'll head down pit lane along with Steve Holtzhausen, Bob Seneker, and Tony Roper. So Holtzhausen and Roper in the pits for the first time while running in the top 12. Holtzhausen goes to the right side, and we'll go to break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Back with you at Toledo Speedway, the Toledo 400 live on TNN this afternoon. A breezy one, only about 60 degrees, so the light jackets are on. But when the sun comes out, it heats up. And boy, is action heating up on this racetrack. Just back to green, and Gary St. Amant leading Mike Eddy. We'll see if the Polar Bear is able to climb in and wrestle with St. Amant in that Wins Ford.
Gary's led quite a number of laps already. We're not sure if he led the first lap or not. It was a dead heat between him and Scott Hansen at the outset here. But Mike has worked his way up from, I believe, fifth starting position. Ted Smokestad also has stayed near the front, but hasn't been able to challenge St. Amant yet for the lead.
And now we see St. Amant, the winner in Columbus, led all 200 laps of that event. His sole victory this season. Each and every restart now, we've had 6 cautions. He's been able to pull out an 8 or 9 car length lead, whether he's chasing Scott Hansen at the time or now as a leader.
Here's a battle for fifth, Jim. It's Dave Sensiba trying to hold off Mike Miller. Sensiba in a Chevrolet, Miller in a Pontiac, working their way off of turn number 4 and back across the start-finish line. Sensiba in his third year now with ASA, trying to sort things out and come away with his first victory. That's kind of what everyone's waiting for. He's been on the podium a few times. Currently, as we mentioned, running along in 5th place.
Mike Miller said he had a shock setup. He really wanted to work well here, and he thought he had it dialed in. He was one of the quicker cars in practice. He's now running in the 5th position after starting 11th. He had the rear track bar mount that mounts underneath the rear end brake in qualifying. He said, hey, it could have well happened in the first lap of the race. We're glad it happened then. He was able to repair the car for second round qualifying, came out, started 11th after being second round quick qualifier. He now is on a tear going to the front, as we see now Mike Eddy not able to close as we thought on Gary St. Amant. He sure got by Ted Smokestad in a hurry on this last period of green flag racing, but now we see it's pretty tight.
And Tony Raines now starting to pressure Ted Smokestad. See Smokestad still running a bit high in the turns, and Raines has been trying to get down low, take that position away.
Smokestad and Raines continue to battle in the Pontiacs. I mentioned the manufacturer's chase. They want to get that back. For Pontiac, we have a problem in turn 1 and 2 now. Kenny Irwin getting together. He spun with Dr. Yale Conley. Conley making slight contact. Irwin then kissed in the side by the 56 of Brett Bell and Joe Knott, who's out back on the racetrack. Not able to skate away from there with minimal damage. But we see that Irwin may have found the fence and came down back across the racetrack.
And the left rear there definitely pushed in.
So on lap 88, Gary St. Amant yet to pit in this 400-lap contest. Will lead Mike Eddy back to the stripe. Kenny Irwin got that car righted, so it may be a very quick caution here. But Irwin has some problems. The right rear kicked up on that H&H Metal Source 14 car. As he circles down to the inside, that indicates he's going to head down to pit lane. As Bob Senecker, I believe, has come in on each and every caution at least once. He is still on lead lap, so very important for Senecker in that Lane Automotive Mr. Gasket Ford to stay out there and get in the pits, get looking at that right front. Apparently they're working on the shock. Joe Knott, many laps down, will also join them in the pit area.
Well, we think we might be able to see what caused all of this. Quite a bit of smoke there. See drivers spinning every which way. There's Irwin coming back up into the groove, and pow, Joe Knott smacking into him, and Brett Bell right in the middle of action again. Brett this time was able to avoid any further carnage.
So as Kenny Irwin kept it off the fence, he slides back up into the racing group after locking down the brakes in that Pontiac, and the rear end gets kicked up, courtesy of the Ford Thunderbird nose of Joe Knott's Raby Ford. Dr. Yale Conley now pulls the car behind the wall. He joins Dennis Lampman, J.D. Summers. Just got the green flag from starter Mike DeVitt, and we're back racing. Gary St. Amant holding the point. Early race leader Scott Hansen had problems. He's out for the day. St. Amant, the leader of this event, trying to gain valuable points in the championship chase. Mike Eddy just trying to win a bunch of races before this year is out and chalk up 1996 and look for the championship in 1997. They're your top two heading into turn 3 this time by. In third is Ted Smokestad holding off Tony Raines, but Smokestad not able to hold the car right to the bottom of the racetrack. So we'll see if that Kleinberg Pontiac of Tony Raines can sneak underneath and maybe grab that spot in the next few laps.
And Jim Smokestad has chosen not to come in and pit early, so the problem must not be severe, but something they'd like to take care of in sort of a mid-race caution period headed to the pits at that point.
Well, we are fortunate, but unfortunately for Scott Hansen, he's joined us now in the booth, and Scott, a great run going. We mentioned how the car handling can go away quickly. Smokestad having a problem keeping it low, and you know firsthand how important it is to keep the car on the bottom.
Sure is. You know, when I came here 4 or 5 years ago, Mike Eddy, we were talking about the qualifying. You know, he said, "How are you qualifying so fast?" And I said, "Mike, you know, you told me when I first came here, the key is to run in the grass here." And you know, I've just been real fortunate working with the shock people this week that we've been able to keep the car running right on the bottom of the racetrack, and you know, it was just extremely fast. One of the best cars I've ever had here, but unfortunately had an engine failure. And, you know, I see Bob going a few laps down. That's going to help us in the point run. You know, Gary and Tony are the other guys that are going to be a factor. You know, I think this is going to take us out of the program, but we're going to come back and just keep trying.
We are just 1/3 of the way through, and now Senecker, after staying on lead lap, finally goes down and wants to correct the problem and take the laps down lost, shall we say, and then make sure that car is right before getting back out on the racetrack again. He was involved very early on with a spin with Mike Garvey, and Mike Garvey's crew continues to work on his yellow Chevrolet. So as the pit lane starts to cloud up with a bunch of different race cars, the action continues on the racetrack, and Smokestad leading Raines, and here it is again. Smokestad unable to hold it on the bottom.
Ted's got a really good car here today. You know, they've been qualifying a lot better the last few weeks, and you know, his car, he's getting down the straightaway really good, and that's what's helping him here. Tony's running in on him in the corners.
Scott, when you knew you had a problem with the motor, you obviously heard it, you knew it was going bad. I mean, what makes you decide how long to stay out there and when to bring it in and just park it?
We had a similar problem over in New York there, and it was one of those deals. We come in, looked at it, and the car didn't really lose, didn't change a lot of sound to it, you know, and we knew that it was a valve problem. This one I wasn't quite sure of. I think it's in the lower end of the motor, which is really unusual with these 9-to-1 engines, and it just wasn't going to make it. The oil temperature was going up, and we looked at the valve train just to make sure it wasn't something we couldn't take out and try and continue running, but there isn't a whole lot you can do. I mean, you just run these things as hard as you can, and that's the key to it. See if they hold up.
18 cars continue to stay on lead lap, and here's two drivers that shared some seat time a week ago. Gary St. Amant leading Mike Eddy. Mike did take some laps in the Wins Ford to see if the car was going to handle any better with a different driver behind it. Apparently, not only did Mike let Gary out-qualify him last week, right now Gary's out-racing Mike Eddy early on here, only a little over 100 laps in the Toledo 400.
Well, Scott, you might be able to comment on this. Gary told us that the information that Mike gave him was really probably 1997 information, because that things were so different that he really didn't have time this season to experiment with the kind of things Mike was suggesting.
Right. One big key factor that was really funny is Mike said, boy, that Gary's one heck of a driver. He says, I drove the thing and, you know, it was really loose for me, and, you know, Gary said it was really tight. He took some of that information. Well, let me tell you, because he's out there and he's running very strong, Mike's going to want to win some races. I think Mike's riding right now. His luck has just been unbelievable. I mean, you wouldn't wish that on anybody, and you're going to see Mike at the front of this before it's all over.
And Bob Dorstwitz, the lap car, makes it interesting momentarily for third here as Smokestad, the Minnesota pilot, trying to hang on to that position, and Rains now getting around Lane Automotive Chevrolet of Dorstwitz. Still running third and fourth, but it gets pretty exciting. Give it a lap or so, and now we see Rains working again, half a group lower than fellow Pontiac driver Smokestad.
That's a good battle. Ted staying to the high side. Really pretty much opened the door, Scott, it looks like, to let Tony go by.
Yeah, Ted's been driving, like I said, he's got a good race car. I think Craig and the boys are probably talking to him saying, Ted, this is 400 laps, you know, they're a little quicker, just hold on to it, and let's get the caution, get the car adjusted. I didn't see if any of the leaders had made a pit stop yet, but tires, I'm sure, are starting to play a factor. Now we're getting into here 100 laps or so, and Goodyear's got a great tire, but 100, 150 laps, you're pretty much out of tires. You need to be thinking about putting some on there.
Now, Scott, without opening up your setup notebook, your strategy coming in, was it similar to Gary and Mike, where you want to stay out for quite a bit of time, maybe get 100 laps in before pitting?
Well, I told the guys, you know, the key to the race here today was to stay out, stay up front, you know, for 100, 150 laps, and baby the tires, you know, just ride around there, and then throw tires after it the last 150 or 200 laps, because tires will make a factor as we get going on into the race here. The guys who don't elect to put them on are going to get themselves in trouble, and it's just a deal here. Everything happens. I mean, you just stand here, and there's racing going on all the way around here, and it's hard to keep up with everything. So just stay out of trouble for 300 laps and then go racing.
112 laps are in, and Kevin Sawinski has moved back into 7th. He had a right rear tire go down, caught a caution. Now you can see what advantage it is to have right side tires on the car, Scott. Extremely quick now, as Sawinski's never slow anywhere, but he did come in very early on, about lap 50, to change the right side tires, fix that flat, and he is on a tear.
I'll tell you, Kevin, you know, they call him a rookie, but I'll tell you, he's one of the best rookies that I've ever seen come into this series. I mean, he has really proven a lot. Coming to a new style car, you know, when Johnny Benson and myself were all rookies, we had the old style car that we ran on an every Saturday night basis, so it wasn't quite the same. Kevin come in here and adapted to this new style car, just unbelievable.
And we see Ted Smokestad now back and forth. He's trying to hang on to the 4th position ahead of Dave Sensiva. Sandy Hang has an update to 32 pit.
Well, Ted Smokestad's crew have been telling him, just be consistent, be smooth. He's got a good car. They say no need to push it, just hang on. Kind of following Scott Hansen's comments. It's a long race, there's a lot to go, and that's what they're telling him right now. Just hang in there and be smooth.
Mike Miller looks like he's the guy, Jim, that doesn't want to hang in there. He's been on the back end of Dave Sensiva there for a while now, and he's got that low groove work, and Sensiva drifting a little bit high there in 3 and 4.
Mike Miller's been aggressive at points this time in the season. I'd say Kaukauna, Wisconsin National Raceway, he was very aggressive on the racetrack, but he, a veteran of ASA racing dating back to the mid-70s, late 70s, and early 80s, took a 10-year hiatus and now back with the American Speed Association. He knows what it takes to go 400 laps. He's run many laps in short track racing. Adapting this ASA car was not a problem for him either. The car caught Pontiac now, running in the 6th position. In 7th is Kevin Sawinski, and that may change here with Sawinski, driver out of Lakeville, Minnesota now, for Scott Lefebvre and the boys. working on getting that spot away from Miller, and there's Buddy Schrock in the mix in the Team Unidial Chevrolet. And Scott, Buddy Schrock, we talked about earlier, taking about a 10-year leave of absence. He looks like a veteran again.
I'll tell you, you know, this car has been so good to everybody. You know, they went to work and designed a race car that's adaptable a lot of different places, and it brought it back to the driver quite a bit. You know, the old cars or the offset type cars, you know, they were pretty good handling race cars, you know, any way you looked at it. And these are too, don't get me wrong, but it's made the driver and the setup come back to racing again.
We're happy to have Scott Hansen in the booth with us, Dave Burns and Sandy Hang in the pits, and I'm Jim Fredo. Glad to have you along in this afternoon. Thanks for stopping to rake the leaves and watch some great racing here on TNN. Jerry St. Amant is your leaders. Mike Eddy is running second. Tony Raines up to third. Here's that battle as we continue to monitor that for fourth on back. Smokestead is in fourth.
I'll tell you, Tony really closed in on these guys when they were in traffic. This car looked a little loose, but I think Gary and Mike, you know, right now, Gary's setting the pace, and he's just trying to be a little conservative with traffic.
As the leaders bunch up, we see now that the number 1 car of Sawinski working to the inside of of Dave Sensiba.
It's a good battle for 6th right there, Jim. And Sawinski's going to get the position. He puts Sensiba back to 7th. And now Buddy Schrock is going to take that position.
Whoa.
Just getting around Bob Derstowitz.
Mike Eddy looking for the lead inside of turn number 3. Gary St. Amant in heavy traffic. They were caught by Tony Raines, and now St. Amant might be caught out to dry if the lap traffic stays low. It's St. Amant's advantage.
Wow, Pat Verdot getting loose coming out of turn number 2 in his first race of 1996, trying to stay in the lead lap. He's not going to do it, and Todd Forbes, the same thing. They'll go around to the outside, and St. Amant retains the lead.
They're running 17th and 18th on the racetrack. For Todd Forbes and Pat Verdot, they now make way. Leaders go around, and St. Amant and Tony Raines run 1 and 2. Raines getting around Mike Eddy.
I'll tell you, traffic played something there, and Tony wants that lead lap points. You know, I mean, those guys are point racing as much as anything. He knows he needs to get up there and get a lap in.
Well, you should know, but most of your points this year have not been from finishing position as far as an advantage goes, but as far as the bonus points go.
It has, you know, like I said, the crew and everything has really worked for us this year, and you know, those bonus points really add up. You know, we never really took that into consideration as much as this year.
St. Amant and Raines at the point. 2 of the drivers battling for the championship. 130 laps in. Stick with us. More to come in the Toledo 400.
We are back live now in Toledo, where massive pit stops are underway. Gary St. Amant, the leader, took on 2 right-side tires. Also Kevin Sawinski behind him, as well as Brad Loney. This is an opportune time for these guys to come in because tires are starting to go away. They don't know when they'll get a yellow again, so they're taking advantage of this quick pit stop situation.
This is our 7th caution. We see that Tom Jones is the reason for this caution. He and Robbie Pyle made heavy contact off of turn number 2. Jones' left rear Goodyear Eagle peeled right off the wheel. Now they have to go up on the hook for the 2nd week in a row. Jones involved in a spectacular accident. Robbie Pyle and Carl Muscotton getting together here. Jones right behind them. Pyle spinning. Jones just about clear, and he clips him. The left rear wheel of Jones was what sent his car in the air, getting contact with Robbie Pyle there, Dave, and a wild spin for Jones. Another, shall we say, a highlight reel moment for Tom Jones 2 weeks in a row.
You know, Jones doesn't want another one of those, obviously. He's had a rough season anyway, but last week he flipped at Cedar Rapids. And for Robbie Pyle as well, who is making just a couple of starts this year. And beautiful car, by the way. Robbie is a sign painter, and that car is beautifully detailed, the maroon number 62. Here's Brad Loney, Jim. He started 30th today after qualifying 3rd because of his late grid appearance, and he has moved his way all the way up. It looks like up into about 7th place right now. So the Bun Saber Flex Steel Pontiac of Loney, they got their opportunity to move through the field. He had moved us all the way up to 8th, and then in these pit stops he picked up a position as well.
And all lead lap cars pitted, all 16 of them, so that gives the lead back to Gary St. Amant, who beat Tony Raines out of the pits. Kevin Sawinski, the great stop for the Faber Racing team. They're now up to 3rd, dropping Mike Eddy back to 4th as they came back out of this very narrow pit area, a very tight quarter-mile racetrack. There's banking on the circuit, so we'll see if that plays a factor. All the Bats guys want to get on the apron to make sure that their car is not tipped up to the point where they can't work on it for pit stops. Let's get another update in the pits with Sandy Hang.
Well, I'm now with Red Bell, who's, gee, you've had a myriad of problems. What happened here?
Well, Sandy, today we've been fighting a motor problem all weekend, actually, and we thought we had the thing cured before qualifying, and then, you know, it was only lap 44 or 50, whatever it was. People were getting impatient early. We're just riding, just taking it easy, and not going to start racing until 300. But I guess some of these people see it differently, and then we're plagued by motor problems here at the very end. So hats off to the entire Wonder Bar Red Line All Race team. Everybody's really gelled together, real fine, and working as a great unit. So I'm really proud of them this year.
Brett is not the only driver that's had many problems here today. If you look down the road, several cars are behind the wall. A lot of body damage, motor problems. This track just eats up cars. It really does.
Had a problem, and boy did he ever. He went over on his head after getting together with Johnny Spawn, Dennis Latman, spinning after Yale Conley stopped up in turns 3 and 4. So that was a spectacular moment last week. Jones has another one to put in the file archives of videotape, and unfortunately, Jones is done for today.
You know, when he talked to me about that incident, he gets a lot of extra safety equipment in there, including his Butler-built seat, which he says was just fantastic, held him right tight in there. And, Scott, I know there's a minimum of things that you can put in there, but Tom had some extras in there that he said really helped him when it came to rolling that thing.
Yeah, you know, you can't have enough safety in the cars nowadays. You know, the seats, the roll bar padding. Some guys are even putting in these roof nets now to stop, you know, with the fiberglass body, you know, just that situation. Tom's car stayed together real good, but it doesn't take a whole lot, as we've seen through the years, to take fiberglass bodies off of these cars. And anything to keep your arms and legs, you know, secure in the car. They just can't come up with enough safety. So, you know, like I said, these cars have been really good to us.
St. Amant leading the way. Tony Raines with a great pit stop running second. Sawinski now challenging again. He had a tire problem early, caught a break. He might catch himself second here.
Here comes Sawinski. He's trying to make it on the inside. Now right to the high side is Raines, driving just a bit of a wide line there, but you're right, Jim. He looks very quick. Look at him come out of turn number 2. Tires all the way on the inside grass there, as Scott talked about earlier.
Hanson, have you talked to Sawinski lately? He's looking great on the bottom. He's keeping the tires in the grass.
I'll tell you, you know, we've talked a couple different times, you know, on what to do for setups here and there. And you got to the point too early. Like I said, you don't even want to be telling Kevin anything anymore because, you know, he listens real good. He's a good student, and I'll tell you, them guys have come a long way.
Well, of course, part of that team, and we all know it, is Mike Chaffee, who's been a crew chief in ASA off and on for years. And they've got good ownership, too. Ownership that cares and puts money into the program. And they've got a complete package this year, and Kevin really shows it.
And just held on by the hood pin, where the bolt holds the hood onto the fender, is where Alec Pincino's fender sits.
And Ed Cooper goes high in the Real Wizard Chevrolet to try to miss all that. Got up in the loose stuff, and that's scary territory.
They have thought Pincino would have a problem, as he had a problem indeed. Ed Cooper, two-time track champion here back in the late 70s. Continues on as we follow the progress of Kevin Sawinski working around Mike Eddy.
I think Tony's tire stagger went away just a little bit on him here. It looks like he's struggling a little bit. The car's pretty twitchy coming off the corner.
Tony's dropped back to 4th now as we look at 5th, Jim. Mike Miller.
Mike Miller, Dave Sensiba, and Brad Loney all together there.
I'll tell you, Brad coming from the back, you know, I mean, you don't ever want to start in the back at these high bank fast racetracks, and he's doing a heck of a job. I'm not sure if he pitted, I believe he did, but to come from the back here and come up right up to the front runners, quite a job.
Yeah, they were picking up positions throughout the day, and in fact worked their way up to 9th or 8th, and then they got another position while they were in the pits. I think they beat Smokestad's crew out that time, so they're doing it in all ways in Loney's pits today.
5th, 6th, and 7th. Car cop Pontiac of Mike Miller leading Dave Sensiba and Brad Loney very quick around this racetrack. Sensiba has had some great runs here, battling for the lead. If you joined us at the beginning of the broadcast, he and Jay Sauter a couple of seasons ago made contact on the front straightaway here, so we know things can happen in a hurry. We've also seen hard impacts by yourself, Scott Hansen. Leading the race looked like it might have been a win. And
I'll tell you, that leading the race here, I don't know if I want to do that anymore. We're just going to come back here and fall back to 2nd or 3rd and ride around for a while. There's a lot of guys that are racing on here, though. I'll tell you, the front 3, like you said, the 4 through 6, now I see Holhausen and Smokestead closing in. So, you know, like you said, Dave might be just kind of biding his time here a little bit. He's had excellent race cars here, got into some trouble early. Had some trouble early on this year, but I'll tell you, he really straightened around. You know, he's come over and thanked a lot of guys for having little talks with him, and you know, he's a heck of a race car driver, and he's going to go a long ways.
Sensiba 5th in points is everything but a victory to his credit. 1994 Pat Sharma Memorial Rookie of the Year. Very well on his way to a podium finish at the banquet. They honor the top 5 drivers by having them speak in the Adams Market, Indianapolis come December, but thoughts are far from that right now as Gary St. Amant leading. Kevin Sawinski may find a lead in jeopardy. He held it through the pit stops, but Sawinski has held nothing back.
Like you said, Dave, Kevin's car is really coming off the corner, extremely good. It's just going to be a matter of time when he gets it. The car is right in the bottom where it needs to be, and I think it'll be a matter of time here. Gary won't be able to hold him off.
What are Mike Chaffee and the guys saying in the number 1 pit, Sandy?
Well, I just talked to Mike Chaffee, and he said they've had the car the whole race, great car the whole race, but they cut a tire at lap 30. That put him behind, so this whole time he has been working his way up to the front of the pack. There's no question they are very confident here in Kevin Sawinski's pit.
Remember, Jim, early on, Kevin may have perhaps gone a lap down, and he was one of several drivers today that have caught an excellent break when a yellow flag came out.
Bob Seneca did catch some yellow flags after his early incident, but then he did have to stay in the pits for multiple laps for problems. And looking at the old point chase, Seneca back in 24th position right now, 17 laps off the pace.
You see that right front fender of Pinsino is still hanging on there. Whoever makes that fastener is going to be very proud today because that thing's not coming off. And now the leaders have to worry a little bit about that as they go to the high side.
St. Amant able to hold off Sawinski, the Brown & Sharp Coleman Racing Products Chevrolet for the time being. Mike Eddy lurching in third there. 10 car lengths back in the Pinsino car between third and fourth. There's Mike Eddy, there's Alec Pinsino. Now we see Tony Raines coming into view. He's in the 4th position in that white Pontiac.
This is a great battle for the lead, Jim. I don't know if we mentioned that St. Amant's crew beat everybody off of pit road, too. So that's how he held the lead in the first place. And now it looks like maybe that set of tires was just a little bit less good than the first one, and Sawinski's were that much better.
Jack Landis in the No Yoder Maisto Toys Ford trying to stay on the tail end of lead lap. Does not appear to be able to do it. And once again, positions change behind leaders. Mike Eddy goes to the inside of Kevin Sawinski, and now he pulls even with the race leader.
He's got Aaron Huff in front of him, though, in the 37 car, and he's going to get boxed in. He's going to have to back off, but boy, for a while, that looked like a superior idea.
I tell you, we've seen that move. I've seen that move more than once. And Mike, you know, like I say, he's out to win a race. And a lot of times he'll just come on up in there and he'll take the position away. But, you know, he's playing a smart race here right now. His luck has been just so bad. You know, he's thinking, well, maybe I didn't need to do this just yet.
Back here in May, he had a flat tire in the 4th circuit of the race, did Mike Eddy. He made up 2 laps under green flag racing, literally passing the field twice, and had a late race incident with Bob Seneca. So he finished 13th that day, but he might have well finished top 5 had the car finished to the end.
But at this point, Scott, he won't be point racing because he's so far down. So really, the only reason he's out there is to win.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, he can win races. That guy is. His points doesn't show it right now, but I believe he's got 3 wins this year already. So.
Down the front stretch, we find the leaders, but here's the battle now going into turn number 3. It's Dave Sensiba and Brad Loney. Loney continues to follow through the crowd, actually making his own tracks through the crowd as he goes through that heavy lap traffic. Loney now 6th, Dave Sensiba in 7th. 8th is Steve Holtzhausen, who came back from the back of the pack. 9th is Ted Smokestead, running 10th, Dennis Berry.
Now here will be a test. Yep, if he can do it on the outside, these guys are in trouble. Look at that. What power.
Kevin Sawinski becoming the 3rd leader of the race. Coming up at turn number 4, Mike Eddy will also follow on the outside as St. Amant back in 3rd may lose that spot. Sawinski the new leader, the Toledo 400. We're coming back right after this. 170 circuits into the AC-Delco Challenge Series run in the Toledo 400, and we have a new race leader. Mike Eddy blistered and blew past Kevin Sawinski, and here's how it happened, Dave.
Coming out into the backstretch, going down toward turn number 3. Mike sticking the nose of the Pontiac in there. Kevin giving him plenty of room at this point in the race, and Mike was able to power by. Scott Hansen, a lot of motor, and as usual, a lot of guts from Mike Eddy.
Oh, yeah. When Mike commits to going, you better have a good spotter that says he's coming, because very, very rarely do you see Mike let up when he's committed himself to going in to make the pass.
This is first Mike Eddy and Kevin Sawinski running in 2nd. Where's Gary St. Amant now, Jim?
Well, he's running in the 4th position now behind Tony Raines, and as he comes off at turn number 4, you see Gary there about 5 or 8 car lengths now behind Tony Raines, and Sandy Hang has an update in that pit.
Well, right now his crew members are looking at left side tires. They desperately need another set of laps. Bud St. Amant's crew chief says the car is so loose it's just going away on Gary. He's got all it can take to just keep it in the groove and keep it where he needs to be. He's looking for a yellow flag right now.
About 3 seconds behind the race leader in St. Amant, dominant early here. Now trying to hope for a caution.
Scott, we understand that the Toledo Speedway greases up naturally, so if you don't start out with a tight car, you can have a real loose car and out of shape in a hurry.
Yeah, I don't know if it pulls the oil or like you were talking earlier, but the track's just wore out, you know, and it takes the tires off a lot quicker than you might think it would with the banking here. But a lot of guys will get loose because the tires just plain give up on you. There's a couple cars we're watching here that are really, really sideways. Mike's car, you know, I mean, right now, Mike's driving the race to win. We're watching him go around there. You know, there's a 44 car out there. Maybe Kevin, that's why he lost the lead, because Pat was real sideways in front of him coming on the front straightaway here, and it's just get back, get your handling going.
Mike Eddy, the race leader, now going around number 8. That would be Carl Scott, the Augusta
Mike Miller,
Cartwright Chevrolet.
Mike Miller with a problem.
Yep, out of turn number 4 now. Miller comes in the AFC 1000 Car Comp Pontiac, and he's going to take it down to pit lane. Big disappointment here. He was not challenging for the points championship at this point, but Mike, with 2 victories on the season, has shown that team to be very strong most of the year.
A lot of fluid coming out of the back of the car. I don't know if it's engine or what it is, but the car spinning in turn 3 and 4, probably due to the oil that Mike was laying down.
25 car Bob Dorswitz spinning, and we saw another car get sideways momentarily. Buddy Schrock was dirt tracking it through that corner, so the fluid laid down. Produces our 9th caution of the afternoon. Bob Dorswitz spinning and able to maintain control as we'll bring these cars again to a caution. And Scott, we've noticed throughout the year that when you have a caution like this, you came in on lap 131, now it's lap 179. I think we'll see the leaders come in again, won't we?
Oh, sure. You know, they're going to go after the left side tires. And a lot of them would be like going back to another set of right sides ready, because, like I say, you get that 100 lap mark, and tires are getting more right now.
Well, the leaders will come by this time. They will see the pit close sign. The pace car picks them up coming out of turn number 4. And there's Howard Thomas waiting for his driver, Mike Eddy, to come in. And then they'll take them all the way around before they drop them back off here on the straightaway to circle around this inside quarter mile. Scott, this kind of pit lane is pretty common in ASA. Just how difficult is it on a week-to-week basis versus a straight-in pit road?
Well, you know, that's where the spotters really come into effect. You know, they talk you into it, around through the traffic, through all the pit guys, because there's so many signs, colorful guys standing out there shaking, you know, waving to you, saying, hi, how you doing? And you just need to really try and find your pit area, and it gets to be tough sometimes.
Well, we'll see the leaders come down into turn number 4. Pace car stays outside, leaving that inside lane open. And here comes Mike Eddy, Kevin Sawinski, Tony Raines, Gary Sandman, the whole lead lap bunch. Sandy's in the leader's pit.
Well, Mike Eddy, you can see they're moving around. They're taking the leaves off the grill. This is fall here in Toledo, and leaves are a problem. They're afraid of overheating. He's taking on 2 left side tires. Across pit lane, we're also seeing Tony Raines take on 2 left sides. He is down and away, and Eddy is down and away.
Wow, Tony Raines beat out Mike Eddy as they try to make their way through. Sawinski, well, it's going to be a drag race.
I'll tell you, Tony's real lucky that there was a mix-up in their pit. The left rear tire changer had the tire off, and there was none there to put on. He's real fortunate to come out the way he did.
Well, we'll settle up who indeed beat who to the line. We'll be right back with figuring out where they're going to be on this single file restart. Stick with us. Back with you live on TNN Motorsports. 185 laps are in. Dennis Berry, for the 2nd time this season, will take the point. His first race with this 15 car is certainly turning out to be a good one. Let's get a pit update after all those stops with Sandy Hang.
Well, down here in the infield, it is there's a lot of cars that are out of the race. Yale Conley, Brett Bell, Dennis Lampman, J.D. Summers, Robbie Pyle, Kenny Irwin, and of course right here with me is Mike Miller, who is pushing his car beside. I tell you what, this has been a tough day for you. Looked like something let go of, whoa, they're still moving the car. Something let go in your engine. What happened?
Well, the AFC 1000 Car Cop Wagner-powered Pontiac was running really good, but something let go inside the motor. I'm not sure what. It was kicking a little oil out of the overflow tank, so we're all done for the day.
How hard is this track on a car?
Well, I don't think it's any worse than any other place. But I'm kind of sad because I think we really had a chance for him today.
Okay, let's get ready for green flag racing here in just a moment.
Jim Dennisberry will take him back. Kevin Sawinski runs second. Then Gary St. Amant, Brad Loney, and Tony Raines round out the top 5 as they get the green. Mike Eddy will run in 6th at this point. Running 7th is Steve Holzhausen. Dave Sensiba holding down 8th. Ted Smokestad is now running 9th. Tony Roper in the 10 car runs 10th. 11th now is
Bill Baird spinning in turn 2. It looks like his either a tire went down or he spun on a dime. Baird in the Saturn Machine Chevrolet off of turn number 2. It spun by himself. Looks like maybe the left rear scout. The car sitting like that. Is it a shock or is it a
looks like
trailing arm?
Something took place there. The left rear shock or something might have let go or broke. It's really hard to say. It might be the bank. I don't really know. I'll tell you.
Sitting down pretty low back there. And Bill was running 12th. He was the last car on the lead lap. And he's not going to be on the lead lap anymore, Jim.
He spun all by himself and very quickly. It must be a mechanical failure. We'll get an update on that as we continue to see Dennisberry lead here at Toledo Speedway in the Toledo 400. And there it is, Kevin Sawinski on TNN. Certainly has lit it up here. Led for a while, Mike Eddy then wrestled it back away, and Dennisberry, by staying out on the racetrack, will stay ahead of that bunch, but it's going to be a, shall we say, running with the bulls potentially for Dennisberry.
Flat right rear tires, what Bill Baird's problem was. The banking was a little more deceiving to us from here.
Yep, certainly was. Flat right rear on Bill Baird, and as he gets that situation figured out, Todd Forbes visits pit lane, as does Jack Landis. A few laps from going green, so we're going to take a short break and be right back with some more green flag racing in the Toledo 400. Kevin Sawinski, Gary St. Amant, and Brad Loney lead the charge on Dennisberry again. Barry did not pit that time by, so the Bulls are running fast. He's trying to hang with them, but he's losing 4th quickly now with Tony Raines and Mike Eddy going around. Here's how the lead changed. Again, Sawinski to the outside.
He goes on to turn number 1, and he will get that line. Pretty decent line, about 1.5 lines up there. Barry trying to hang on in the Murray's Discount Auto Stores Pontiac. Gets down into turn number 3, has to let it go. And Sawinski, boy, he's way up there.
Yeah. Dave, I think if you look at the front of Dennis's car, the right front, the fender and the hood are pushed in, and that might have a little aerodynamics situation with him right now, where the car's wanting to be a little tight.
That, of course, I think came on a restart or an accordion effect kind of restart. Barry staying fairly clean out of incidents. He was leading the race here in May, his only other race he's led in ASA, and he had a problem where he did not pit, and he said he was kicking himself for not coming in to get the bodywork fixed. Here, now it appears to finally be costing him after getting to the front.
And, of course, he showed promise at the opening race of the season down in Lakeland, where he qualified on the outside pole. That was a fantastic showing for this young driver.
Sawinski out in front. St. Amant running 2nd. Loney closing in 3rd. He qualified 3rd, had to start just about 33rd, I think. He made his way back through the field.
He was way back in 30th to start with, worked his way up methodically, and as we've seen, had plenty to avoid on the way through. So they're just happy that he's got a clean race car at this point, and now he can battle for the lead.
Here comes Mike Eddy back to the front, and Steve Holzhausen.
Steve might be a sleeper in this deal here. You know, he likes to really figure the car out through the middle stages of the race, and then they'll come back in, they'll get their last set of tires that they need. And you're going to see Steve just pretty much biding his time here, letting these guys go race. And, you know, he's not in a point battle either, so he's just going to watch some good race and then be up there at the end of the race.
Speaking of Steve Holzhausen, of course, driver of the Myers Stores Red Baron Frozen Pizza car, currently running in the 6th position.
I was going to ask you, Scott, about the pressure that must be off of Steve, because he doesn't have to worry about the points. He can just get out there and race.
Yeah, I'll tell you, he's done a fantastic job in that car, taking over after Dennis got out of it, which Dennis is a super race car driver too. You know, it's just it takes such a team effort, you know, and everybody's got to work together, and they just didn't have the combination right. Steve was able to come in with his people, that Toby and the boys that have worked together a long time, and they put a heck of a race car together.
This battle for second, Jim, between Gary St. Amant and Brad Loney. Remember they battled a little bit earlier this year at IRP, and now they're this close once again. We'll see if they've patched things up from that altercation at the end of the race there at IRP earlier this year.
Leaders have included Scott Hansen, Gary St. Amant, Kevin Sawinski, the current leader, Dennisberry, and Mike Eddy. 11 cars remain on lead lap, and we've had 10 caution flags fly. This is, I believe, the longest period of green we've had. 206 laps of 400 complete in the Toledo 400.
Gary St. Amant now losing the position of Brad Loney. He moves into second. He's trying to chase down Kevin Sawinski. St. Amant will now run third. Tony Raines in fourth. And look at Mike Eddy. He's back up in the middle of this. He's going to go to the high side of Raines.
Heavy lap traffic there to the outside. We see Alec Pinsino and Todd Forbes trying to stay the heck out of the way, and he does a good job of that. But Raines in that traffic again, getting that second spot, working with Eddy, and Holtzhausen closing in fourth.
Last weekend was such a great weekend for Raines and his whole team. You know, they've done everything this year except win a race, and that finally came last week. It's a monkey off their back and a confidence builder as they go into the last few races.
Dennis Berry, who had to lead on that last restart, is now well back into 11th position. Final car on lead lap. The leaders are in turn 1. As we see him go through turns 1 and 2, Berry is now back half a lap. He's in 11th. The final car on lead lap running 12th is Carl Muscat in the lap down. Harold Fair, the Michigan veteran, running in 13th. 14th is Bill Baird. 15th is Pat Bordeaux, 3 laps down. So this race certainly does take its toll. 11 cars on lead lap.
Jimmy saw the drivers going around the outside of Bordeaux there in the 44 car. He's kind of trying to hook something up for next year. And today, he had Dan Crawford, the veteran crew chief, working for him. They've got a few problems in that car, but he's got some experience working with him. They're both from Michigan. That's how they got together.
It was a new car that they built just to come here, and I don't know if they had any testing time. And it's pretty hard nowadays to come out and be real competitive without getting in a car and feeling what it's like, and just coming out for everything brand new.
Another case in point there. Todd Forbes built a brand new race car. He and his wife Larissa were here. First time this year, he said, we spent nearly the year up to this point getting this car ready for this race. It took him that long because obviously work commitments, but then Todd just said it took that much time to get going. And unfortunately, he's a couple of laps down already after running so well here at Toledo.
Getting good up front again. Kevin Sawinski has been caught by Brad Loney. Loney now in the Bun Saber Pontiac. Looking to the inside. Scott, that inside line that you talked about is coming back into play, and Loney's going to try it in turn 3.
He's got it running right in the grass. Brad's car is really fast around the bottom of the racetrack.
Sawinski able to hold off Gary St. Amant, but once Loney broke through, the Bun Saber Pontiac takes the lead. The 6th different leader this afternoon. Sawinski has to hang on, and now we see a battle for 4th. Mike Eddy goes to the inside of Tony Raines.
Scott, let me ask you this. Loney started 30th today after qualifying 3rd. Now he's got the lead. How much of a burr does that put under your saddle when you have to start back there? Do you think Brad's driving with that much more aggression just because of that?
More adrenaline going from starting back there and dodging a few bullets, I'm sure. You know, you don't start that far back and not get a few close calls. Bob Sanford was proof of that. He started in the middle and talked about it a little bit before the drop of the green flag. He said, man, it's just going to be so hard to get through here and get up front. I'll tell you, Brad's doing one heck of a job. I haven't seen him work on the car.
Loney finally to the front as again he battled his way back 3 times. Gary St. Amant started outside of row number 1. He currently runs 3rd with Mike Eddy breathing down his backside. I understand, Sandy, you have an update from the winch pit.
Well, you may have remembered Gary had a loose condition that they hoped to correct during the pit stop. Well, they may have overcompensated because the crew chief tells me that Gary's a little bit tight, and they are just hoping that the car will now just loosen up a little bit. He's just trying to ride it out, hoping the car will improve for him.
Well, he'll have to hope and continue to hope as Mike Eddy's car working better at this point. Now he moves the Howe Racing Enterprises Pontiac into 3rd. 4th is now St. Amant. A great side-by-side battle for 5th. Steve Holtzhausen and Tony Raines.
Raines
down the front stretch.
He has to give up the position as Holtzhausen powers through in that Meyer Ford, and he will now head down the backstretch, gaining that spot. Raines hanging in there. It looks like the same kind of thing as Smokestack was doing. Either the car is decent, but it just doesn't have the setup or the power right now to keep everybody at bay, and so Tony's going to just let him go.
In talking to Tony, but right before the race during the driver on-track autograph session, he said his car is set up for a longer run, but Scott, it's been 40 laps or so. It doesn't appear they have the setup they want.
Well, I'll tell you, it's going to come back to a tire situation right now. You know, it's so hard for these tire guys, and you got to just give them all the credit you can because they're only allowed to change 2 tires. And if one tire doesn't do what they expect it to, you know, you can have too much stagger or too little stagger real easy. And that's what's nice about trying to have a couple back-to-back cautions so you can change all 4 and see where you're really at.
Dave Sensible running in the 8th position, wanted 7th. You see him get into the backside of the Pontiac of Ted Smokestad, the 32. 7th, 8th, and 9th up for grabs here. Smokestad out of Minnesota looking for sponsorship next season. Also looking for another great run. He's had a couple of top 5s this season. Looking for his first victory. Sensible winless this season, but the way Dave's running today, I would not count him out for the final 3 races of the season.
Well, now we're getting past the halfway point here, and so they're starting to get a little bit more aggressive now. As we see Mike Eddy now battling with Kevin Sawinski. He's taking that second spot.
Mike Eddy and Kevin Sawinski made their way through the field very quickly. They both shared the lead prior to our last caution. Now Mike Eddy's car, after those pit stops and those tire changes, Howard Thomas and the crew making a better judgment at this point of what tires to use. Have got that black 88 ahead of Sawinski for the time being in the battle for second. Going around Ed Cooper in the AccuData Chevrolet. They will have heavy lap traffic ahead of them. We saw it play out last week where it cost Bob Seneca a win. Tony Raines using lap traffic to score the victory. We've seen position passing this afternoon in traffic as well.
Whoa. Pat Bordeaux just got in the way of Mike Eddy there, nearly turned him around, and Eddy saved the car.
Anything can happen here on the high banks at Toledo Motor Speedway. Brad Loney trying to stay ahead of all of it. He leads the field in the Bun Saber Flex Steel Pontiac. Under the 11th caution at the Toledo Speedway, the Toledo 400 allows the leaders to come in and pit. Again, they're pitting on an inner quarter mile of the Toledo Speedway. It shares the front straightaway, and we have Sandy Hangdown covering the action, but all leaders now able to get in the pits and get what they need to be corrected. Sandy Hanks down at Gary St. Amant's pit.
Right now they're putting on two right side tires for Gary St. Amant. Right behind him, leader Brad Loney is also taking on two right sides. Looks like Brad is going to beat him out of the pits, and he does it. Eddy right behind him, and Raines.
A big problem with the right rear for Gary St. Amant. All lead lap cars are able to get by him. He finally gets the jack down. I spoke a little too soon. His buddy Schrock will come out 9th. Dennis Berry, I believe, will come out 10.
Tony must be having a problem. I see him going back up past Brad. He's going to come back in. Brad had one heck of a pit stop.
And he had to make a huge right-hand turn to get out of there, Scott.
Here's why we're under caution. Todd Forbes and Kevin Sawinski running on the racetrack. Sawinski, of course, on lead lap. Todd Forbes not on lead lap, but not going the right direction off of turn number 4 here, Dave.
Todd going around now. He will clip the passenger side door. Actually, it's going to be the driver's side door on that big tire there. Not a significantly severe impact for Todd, but he's going to have some things bent up there. He's okay. They've gotten the car in and out of the pits already, and got it back on the track trying to figure things out for Todd.
Tony came back in and changed the right rear tire. They must have had a problem there again with either the carrier or a gun or something.
We're joined by Scott Hansen in the booth out early in the race after winning the pole position. Very much keeping an eye on his point contenders. Tony Raines, as we was talking about, came back in the pits, and St. Amant had a big problem in the pits, Sandy.
Yeah, that's right. The lug nuts are usually glued onto the wheel when they put it on, but they popped off right when they were snapping the tire in place, and that's what cost Gary some valuable time and some valuable positions on the track.
Dave Burns knows all about gluing on lug nuts or using the sponge fasteners, and apparently it didn't work the greatest there for Gary St. Amant this time by. He lost 7 positions in the pits, and now we find Tony Roper out front in the Child's Tire Chevrolet. His first laps led in quite some time in AC-Delco Challenge Series competition.
Tony's doing a good job staying out there, staying out on lead lap in order to pick up some points.
He's led 2 races thus far this season, and now we see Gary St. Amant back out there. And Dave, you had some time off.
Yeah, and a little confusion here as Kevin McCurdy and Tony Roper were helping me put on the headset at the Minnesota State Fair, a non-televised event, and getting me all set up here with the radio and the headset, telling me that the eyes and the ears of the driver are definitely the spotter. They put me up in the stands as far away as possible, I think, from the car. And we're probably not going to get a chance to talk with Tony right now. We are going to check in with him later. They're going to go back to green here. But great opportunity to be the eyes for the driver. I spotted for Tony on his car to try to help him know when cars were on his outside or inside. And he led a couple of laps out there, passed everybody on the track at one point, was extremely quick, and then had some trouble in the pits. But has a great experience with the Childs Roper team. They're a great bunch of people.
Back to green we go. Tony Roper will lead him, and Bill Baird slow on the start up in turn number 1 and 2. Pulls out of harm's way and continues under a very slow rate of speed. Roper has a great jump. Lap car of Alec Pincino is running through turns 3 and 4 just ahead of Brad Loney and Mike Eddy. Again, both drivers having great stops. Loney able to hold off Mike Eddy on pit lane, a very important part of the race as the laps continue to click away. We're at lap 238 now, working that lap, and Roper has a 10-car lane lead on Brad Loney, but that may shrink as fast as these Pontiacs have been running today, Dave.
Down into turn number 1, the battle between The two Arrowheads, Brad Loney out front, Mike Eddy running in third behind him. They're chasing Tony Roper. As you see, Eddy started 8th, and he's currently 3rd. He's had a good run today. He's been
trouble
up
in turn 3, and Kevin Sawinski and Alec Pinsonneau get together. Holtzhausen helps Sawinski spin. Unfortunately, it was something that was not to be avoided. Alec Pinsonneau running up the racetrack in turn 3. Right ahead of Kevin Sawinski, brings out our 12th caution flag.
I think you're going to see a lot of the leaders coming in for the left side tires where we were talking earlier to try and get that quick yellow, try and get all 4 tires changed so they can have some idea what's going on with the tire situation.
Well, and a challenge now for Tony Roper and the guys to figure out, they ran pretty well, Scott. They had a lead pulled on Brad Loney and Mike Eddy. And do you come in now, or do you stay out there and lead it for a few more laps?
Well, I think Tony's car looked real good, and I think you're going to see him stay out, but I think you're going to see how some of these other guys coming in to change them left side tires.
Alec Pinsonneau running down into turn number 3, gets tapped by Sawinski, and Sawinski gets lifted off the ground by Steve Holtzhausen. Holtzhausen really had nowhere to go there. Sensibly able to shoot down the bottom, but Sawinski, while running in the top 5, gets together with Alec Pinsonneau there, bringing out the caution.
I think they're all going to be pretty lucky there. It doesn't look like any real damage was done to any of the cars. Kevin's car body slammed Alex's a little bit, but I think it hit square enough that you're not going to see any real damage to the car.
We're going to check it out in Sawinski's car, so we'll go back to the lead with Tony Roper under this caution.
Well, we're going to try and chat with Tony and see if we can get an idea of what's going on out there. They're going to stay out for now. And they're talking about cleaning the windshield now. They've Tony, this is Dave Burns from TNN up here in the tower. You're out in the lead, bud. You going to stay out there and try to lead a few more here?
Yeah, this is the best set of tires we've had all day. We can't seem to keep the car tight. It just gets looser and looser, but we're going to stay out and get a few points. Get a little TV time. Hey, I do just my spotter today, you know?
Well, we just took a look at you and Kevin setting me up a few minutes ago, and that worked pretty well at Minnesota. I guess you rely a ton on the spotters, don't you?
Yeah, you really do. You know, they're just a second set of eyes for you. Accidents on a track like this, it's a pretty fast racetrack. They can come up on you pretty quick.
Now, we've been joined in the tower by Scott Hansen, who's out of the race now, and he mentioned something about the fact that in this circular pits on the inside, you use a spotter a lot as well to guide you through all the different people, even tell you where your pits are.
We sure do. Earlier on, we got stuck there. There were so many cars on the pit road, I couldn't see where I was going, and the spotter did help get me to the pits.
Okay, Tony, real quick before we let you go, give us a report on the track conditions. This place tends to grease up a little bit. How does it feel to you right now?
Pretty good right now. It was a little greasy earlier, and I think it's got a little bit better.
Okay, good luck to you. We're going to let you go back to work here.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks to Racing Electronics for the communication device used to be able to get Dave Burns talking to his driver, Tony Roper.
Well, I have to stay objective still, Jim. He's not my driver. Scott's my driver, too. Got to be. And I'm wearing a purple tie today for Steve Holtzhausen. I said, I'm going to go over to Meyer, your sponsor, and buy it. And I've worn a Baird T-shirt and whatever.
And you're wearing a white shirt for Tony Roper.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, right, sure.
I'm really surprised none of the leaders came in for the left side tires. You know, they've been on there quite a while already, and maybe they're getting excellent tire wear. But this is a time and point in the race where I think we'd have been putting tires at the car the rest of the day.
There's still 156 laps left, so it wasn't a track position consideration. So they will stay out on the racetrack. The only car and lead lap that did pit was Kevin Sawinski to check things over. We'll get back to green flag racing here at the Toledo 400 live on TNN Motorsports. Roper doesn't get the jump he wanted. Now it's going to be Brad Loney again to the inside looking for the lead. Lap 245, and Loney will take a commanding run into turn 3. Roper forced high, and now here comes Mike Eddy.
Very strong by Brad Loney, strong by Mike Eddy as well. And looks like the first time Tony may have just gotten a good jump, and this time Brad Loney and Mike Eddy were right there. They're going to put Tony Roper back to 4th now as Dave Sensiba, and even back to 5th as Ted Smokestad tries to work by on the inside.
As Tony Roper told you, he wanted to stay out and lead some laps, get some TV time. Well, same thing that was in the mind of Dennis Berry, and Berry dropped back to 11th, a half a lap back with these leaders who have pressure Goodyear Eagles on those cars. Last stop, they made right side tire changes, wholesale changes for all lead lap cars, and coming back through, keep an eye on Kevin Sawinski as he's well back in the back, but up front, great action off of turn number 2 in the Great American Dream Series.
I'll tell you, Dave Sensiba really benefited out of those last pit stops. So I believe he was running like 5th, 6th, somewhere back in there. Now you see him right up here, and I think you're going to see him go for the lead with Mike when he gets on Brad.
Mike Eddy to the bottom of Brad Loney. It was Sawinski and Eddy, the dominant cars. Now it appears to be a Loney-Eddy battle. Eddy to the bottom of the racetrack. Sensiva actually having to check up. It's because he carried a bunch of speed to stay underneath the back bumper of Eddie to keep Loney high and dry.
Loney trying to not lose too many positions now as Smokestad is going to sneak into the picture as well. Sensiva is going to get second. Here comes Smokestad for third.
A great battle here as Mike Eddie's now just taking lead for the 13th time this season. That's the season high. The mark was set this past May in a 300 lapper with 12 different lead changes. This is our 13th change of the year. And what a great race this afternoon on TNN with Mike Eddie taking the point. Dave Sensiva having one of his best runs ever.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like Mike is going to stay unchallenged very long as Sensiva is right there. And now Smokestad's car, that didn't appear to be a front car earlier, is running extremely well.
Smokestad, thanks to pit stops and the work by Lisa Smokestad, the tire specialist, getting that car back up front. The top four again.
I'll tell you, Ted's car right in the grass. You know, gotta take your hats off to those guys who shut that car up. And I mean, that car is really running around the bottom of the racetrack.
Aaron Huff driving. Dave Onspau's 37 stays well below the leaders to get out of their way. Again, the top 7 cars now stream into turn 3, led by Mike Eddie.
And Jim, Sensiva's ride here is not unexpected at the West Michigan Chevy dealer Chevrolet. He had the pole at Berlin earlier this year and the pole at Anderson, so they've had fast equipment. Dave's had some bad luck, and this appearing to be the best performance so far of the year for the young driver.
Things are starting to settle, and if you believe that, well, I might be lying, because we're going to take a break right here and find out if anything happens. We'll bring it back to you. Mike Eddie leading, Dave Sensiva, Ted Smokestad, and Brad Loney. Stay tuned. Dave Sensiva staying on the back bumper of the GM Goodwrench Pontiac. Mike Eddie in the 88 leads, but Sensiva has been no farther back than 5 feet of that rear bumper of that Pontiac. Sensiva coming off a third place showing here in Toledo this past May, has 3 top 10 finishes in his limited run in his 3rd season in ASA, so he does extremely well here, and I think he might even have the fastest car on the racetrack, Dave.
He is hanging in there and pressuring Mike Eddie. Mike now has to make a decision if he is going to drive Dave hard from the front, in other words, stay in the way and not give him any space, or if he's going to just let him go. At this point in the race, we're at lap 265. Not that long to go here, and if this thing stays green, you want to be out in front, obviously.
Tight quarters a half a lap ago. Dave Doran from Cincinnati, Ohio, the road race in the Momo cars. Pontiac was down low in turns 1 and 2. He thought low enough, but as Mike Eddie went by, they scraped momentarily. Eddie the leader, Sensiva running second in that Lane Automotive Chevrolet. Next up on the picking list is Bill Baird, running 9th now. Sawinski and the 5 of Holtzhausen, 9th and 10th on the racetrack.
Boy, it appears that they didn't have any damage from that earlier contact. Scott, maybe you can comment. What should the Sawinski crew have been looking for when someone gets underneath the back end like that?
Well, I don't think it's so much as the back end as when the car slid in there sideways. They need to be checking the panhard bar and stuff like that to make sure that the rear end didn't get bent over to the side a little bit.
We see zero of Tom Jones back out on the racetrack, and Bill Baird spinning over in turn 2, and Tony Roper, with help of his spotter, his father Dean Roper, saying, go outside, outside, please, outside.
There was a few of them that were pretty close there.
Boy, Bill's got another flat tire there, either from the spin or preceding that.
I think these guys got to come in with those left side tires.
Definitely have a problem there for Bill Baird, bringing out our 13th caution. 269 circuits are in. AC-Delco Challenge Series coverage coming to you live on TNN. We're coming right back. The 1996 AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by your GM Goodwrench service dealer. We want your business. By Win Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's wins, it works. And by Pep Boys, 26,000 items at the guaranteed low price. Tires and service too, everything but gas. Pit stops by the top 8 teams, and Mike Eddie back out on the racetrack. Brad Loney had some problems. Steve Holtzhausen had some problems on that pit stop.
Dave Sensiva's crew did a fantastic job of getting him out of here. They put on left side tires on that Chevrolet Monte Carlo and beat everybody out. Kevin Sawinski was second in that race, and then Mike Eddie, followed by Tony Roper, and Buddy Schrock had a good pit stop. A few problems for Brad Loney, who came out after them.
You know, when you talk about doing left side tires, they have to run around from the right side of the car where he's pitted, you know, and to be able to do that, get the left side changed before some of the other guys change the right side. They have exceptionally good stuff.
And the crew's cheering on. Dave Sensiba as he came back out of the pits ahead of Kevin Sawinski, Mike Eddy, Tony Roper, Buddy Schrock, Brad Loney. That's how they came out of the pits. Your race leader, Ted Smokestad. Gary St. Amant second. Back to green flag racing at Toledo, Ohio. The Toledo 400 on the high banks. It's a half-mile speedway. The 13th time the American Speed Association has visited this speed plant. Scott Hansen, the most wins here with 3, is already out of the race. Ted Smokestad looking very impressive up front. This is the battle for fourth. Dave Sensiba and Kevin Sawinski both came in on that last caution. They have now forged their way through.
Sawinski keeps trying on the inside. You see him there, sticking the nose in. Another time going into turn number 3. Sensiba has held his line. It hasn't been quite as low, however. And so Sawinski continues to press. But we saw him pass on the outside earlier. Kevin may look to the high side next.
Yeah, these drivers did make a pit stop, and Sensiba and Sawinski may run nose to tail until they get to the front, where they're going to find this battle. Ted Smokestad, Gary St. Amant, and Tony Raines. These drivers did not come down pit lane to change left side tires.
I think Tony's got an exceptionally fast car. Looks like he's going for the pass now. He needs to get up there and lead a lap. He hasn't done that yet today, I don't believe. And, you know, when it comes to this point deal, he knows what he's got to do here.
There have been 9 different leaders, and Raines is not one of them. Ted Smokestad is the 9th different leader. Tony Roper, Brad Loney, Dennis Berry have all shared the point, as has the guy we're talking to, Scott Hansen, Gary St. Amant, and Kevin Sawinski. Mike Eddy also leading a portion of the middle of the race.
All of your top point leaders, well, Gary St. Amant and Scott Hansen both led a lap today. Tony Raines has not, as Scott mentioned, who's standing up here with us, so he's going to try to move around Ted Smokestad before these guys get up there. Dave Sensiba and Kevin Sawinski, who are flying through the field.
Joe Nutt had some problems early on. They had the hood up on that Valvoline Ray before. He's back on the racetrack, many laps down.
Here goes Sawinski sliding into the inside, and he will now take over that 4th position, but not uncontested as they get back out into 3. Sensiba's going to try to hang on.
Sawinski safely through the bottom there. Sensiba lets him go, and now it's going to be Sawinski's turn to see how they can close the gap. Mike Eddy closing back up on that battle.
The leaders are about 30 car lengths ahead of Kevin Sawinski and Dave Sensiba shown here.
The top 6 sharing turns 3 and 4. Single file now coming off the Super America Pontiac of Smokestad continuing to lead. Smokestad has finished 11th in 1995 in this race, a 400-lapper, so he knows how to run the full contest, but has not experienced great luck here. 34th and a 20th place finish his other 2 starts here on this half mile. So Smokestad really maturing this season, putting in some great runs in the latter half.
You know, this is Sawinski's first long run here. He ran the 300-lapper earlier this year, but for Kevin, this is the first 400-lapper he's ever run at Toledo, and probably the longest race of his ASA career so far.
Well, I'll tell you, Kevin ran that 400 at Anderson, which I watched him take the victory from me there. So all I have to say, this racetrack has got a lot more side floors and a lot more G-force in the corners. It's a lot faster for when you put the tracks in comparison. So it'll come into play with him here as we get going.
There's a lot of conversation, a lot of reference to the load put on the right side of the car. On these high banks, you're going into the corner. On a flat track, you'd think the car would roll over and create more pressure, but on the banks, it really does create more pressure on the right side, right?
It sure does. You know, it gets up on that right front. You just wonder how a lot of those parts can take it. And I tell you, sponsors like the one I have with Apple Racing Product make some exceptionally good parts on these cars nowadays. You know, like as we talked about safety and making the things last for these length of races.
We're watching 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Gary St. Amant, Kevin Sawinski, Dave Sensiba, and Mike Eddy. They're chasing down leader Ted Smokestad, who is now getting a bit of pressure from Tony Raines up front. And here they are, Smokestad out of turn number 4. Those 2 Pontiacs going at it. And Tony Raines, as Scott Hansen mentioned earlier, has not led a lap yet today. So they're going to try to work around Pat Bordeaux, and Tony is going to try to take the point.
Smokestad has only led 7 laps this season, but again, he's 4th in laps completed. He's completed 96% of all laps possible. He also is one of 2 drivers without a DNF. He finished every one of the 16 previous races, as has Brad Loney. But Smokestad now not running for consistency. He's running for the win.
Here's a side-by-side battle for that 4th spot, and Kevin Sawinski is in trouble.
He dropped down to the inside. The 4 of Sensiba went by, then Mike Eddy went charging past, and Sawinski off the paces. Loney slips through.
Thought I might have heard a soured motor on that spin by for Sawinski, so we'll keep our eye on him. not in the points chase per se, but the battle first through 10th is incredibly close. And any position change in the last few races here could mean a lot of money at the end of the season.
With his 3 wins, he's bolted up into 165 points out of the lead coming in. Wanted to run a good finish. He could probably finish as high as 3rd if he continues with the success he's had. But Sandy, it doesn't look like he's going to be that successful today.
Well, they don't know how bad it is, but they're speculating, at least here in his pit, that it's the valve spring. So they're talking with him right now on the radio, trying to determine exactly the problem, but it's not looking good.
I'll tell you, with the new tires and stuff that Goodyear's building for us, they're doing an exceptional job there. But what's happening to us is we've got to run the motor so much harder. You get in these banked racetracks. We were running our motor 8,700 RPMs here for qualifying, and it's just something that if the other guys do it, you have to do it too. And just hopefully it'll keep up. And I think you're going to see a lot more of these engines going by the wayside here in the next few weeks if everybody continues to turn them as hard as they are.
And why is that, Scott? With the new tire, why do you have to turn more RPMs?
Because it's hooked up to the racetrack so much more, and when you get on the accelerator with the harder tire, you don't want to be spinning tires, and now it won't do that. The car is just hooked up, and it can take pretty much everything you throw at it. And my car was so good. I went around here, and we did not have we didn't need to use the brake pedal one bit. The tires are just adhering to the racetrack so good. You just get going, and when you get a hold of the gas, it's wide open. There's no more feather in it. It's just good deal.
Ed Smokestad leading, and we have a big crash over in turn 4. Ed Cooper spinning off the 4th turn. Dave Doran having nowhere to go. Center punches the left side of Cooper's car at probably 35 miles per hour. Doran already had some damage from his front end, and indeed, real lucky.
Real lucky they got slowed down. It could have been a lot worse. That's a real fast part of the racetrack. And earlier when 62 car backed up in front of Jones, there was nothing these guys could do. These guys had their brakes on it. It's not like a rookie mistake. You just get so much corner momentum that the car just starts to go to the bottom, but the momentum carries back up the racetrack.
Scott, how blind is this place? We know places like Salem are very blind coming out of the corners. How does Toledo compare to something like that?
It's not too bad. Like I say, you got to have your good spotter helping you out, but you can look across the corners here and see quite a bit of what's going on.
There's Dave Doran. He is okay. He's got the window net down, signaling that he's all right.
Won the runoffs in the SCCA National Championships last season, and Doran trying to make his run here in ASA. And you see Cooper right with the leaders there. And Sensiba may have had some help in that situation as Cooper spins down to the inside right in front of Brad Loney. Look at what Loney did there.
My goodness, down to the inside. Loney's already got a tire mark down there. And then Doran center punches him, and Bill Baird
got some air.
Yep, big time underneath the right rear of Dave Doran, and everybody else scattering to the inside.
Meanwhile, as that is the center focus of what's on the racetrack, down on pit lane, leaders once again have come into pit. We'll get an update on what all happened on pit lane as Rains and Eddie are down. We'll see if they can beat out the rest of the bunch. We'll be cleaning this one up. Come on back with us. Cleanup continues under this 14th caution flag of the afternoon, coming out smack dab at lap 300. The leaders have come in. They've done their pit stops, and once again, you had your eyeballs on it, Scott Hansen. Dave Sensiba's crew got him out in a hurry.
I'll tell you, they're unbelievable watching them over there. They're as good as they can get. I'll tell you right now today, everybody's really on, and that comes when you're running good. When you're running up front, the car's handling them. Driver's not complaining about too much. That gets the team motivated just as much.
Well, Sandy Hang, what is the emotion and feeling down in the Dave Sensiba pit?
Well, right before the yellow flag, they were telling me they were looking for a window of opportunity. They really wanted to put on right sides. They felt they needed a set of rights to finish the race on. And this is exactly what they wanted to happen. They were prepared. They were ready to go. And they feel they've got a great car here. And they feel they might be the ones here that are going to take that checkered flag.
Sensiba continues to scrub off. Maybe a little bit of heat built up in those brand new tires. Again, only 2 tires allowed to be changed under any pit stop. The only exception would be at the Milwaukee Mile, which we ran earlier this year. Sawinski was the winner there. Bill Baird was running on the outside of the racetrack and got involved as an afterthought almost, as he had nowhere to go. Ed Cooper's car now safely down to the apron. We mentioned there's quite a few cars out of the race. And unfortunately for Ed Cooper, it looks like he's the next casualty of this 400-lap grind. I talked to him before the race. He said he just wanted to get some laps in. He knew that would be a long day and a strong effort. Let's find out what he says with Sandy Hay.
What happened out there?
Someone got a little over anxious and got me sideways in front of the whole pack, and there wasn't any place for me to go, and blocked off the track, and that's what happens.
You okay there?
A little tender.
Some tough luck here for Ed.
Ed Cooper's a great guy. We mentioned earlier he's taught college from time to time and in the engineering field, so quite an intelligent guy, and he comes out here to practice his trade a little bit on the AC-Delco Challenge Series. Made a couple of shows in the last couple of years. Good to have him along. The front few cars right now, kind of interesting. Joe Knott is on the track and running in 16th place, so he's about 13 laps down. And right behind him, Steve Holshausen is the leader. Right behind him, Mike Garvey is currently being shown in 24th place, many laps down from his earlier problems. And then Carl Muscatin in the Odessa Carbright Chevrolet is running in 2nd position.
Immediately following today's coverage of the AC-Delco Challenge Series, ready for the road coming up here on TNN as part of your Motorsports Sunday. Followed by Motor Trend Magazine. Look forward to that, checking out the latest from Motor Trend Magazine. So we'll keep you updated here on TNN as we continue under caution. 308 laps are complete. Steve Holshausen becomes the 9th, make that the 10th different leader today of the Toledo 400. Under caution at Toledo, Ohio. The fans have turned out in record numbers here at Toledo Speedway. 13th event for the AC-Delco Challenge Series on this Ohio half mile. Racing Electronics, the official communications equipment supplier to the American Speed Association, is giving away a Uniden Bearcat scanner along with a 1-year racer's frequency membership on each ASA telecast on TNN. To enter the drawing, send your name, address, and a postcard to Racing Electronics, P.O. Box 561244. Charlotte, North Carolina 28256. That's the address on the screen. And this week's winner is John Ward from Rochester, Minnesota. Congrats, John. Enjoy your scanner and the 1-year membership. Back to green flag racing. 313 circuits in this time by. Joe Knott, the lap car, will lead. Race leader Steve Holshausen into turn number 1.
There's Steve up front. We're wondering if he had a car that was good enough to run there earlier. We'll see what happens there with everybody with the new tires.
We're going to find out. Dave Sensiba running back in 2nd. He's going to go around the outside of Carl Muscatin here. We mistakenly said he was running 2nd. Carl is actually 12th, shown right now. He's 1 lap down. The only other car running 1 lap down right now is Harold Fair, who's running in the middle of the pack. So the 8 and the 81 may have a bit of a battle before
they've had a battle all race long, Dave. They got down a lap early, but they have pitted together. They've run together, and it's a very good battle, albeit a lap off the pace. Heating up for 3rd place, Tony Raines and Gary Santamont. Raines is yet to lead. 9 different leaders this afternoon. Raines has been strong enough to be at the point, but not quite quick enough. Ted Smokestad led Raines for 30 laps. We thought for sure Raines would catch and pass him, but that was not the case. They came in for pit stops. Raines had a quicker stop, came on right behind Sensiba. Smokestad now back battling with Tony Roper for position. There's Tony Raines in the Cleanburn Pontiac.
All these guys know that they're down to within this 100-lap period here, and they're going to get real racy here.
How many notches do you go up, Scott? Do you go from 4th gear to 5th gear, figuratively speaking, or do you go to like 6th or 7th, saying, hey, we got to go?
I tell you, you get pretty wide open here. You know, you got, you know, you don't have a lot of time left. You know, you're going to be in the points.
Whoa! And Joe Knott and Steve Holshausen get together. Holshausen was trying to put Knott another lap down, and he is continuing to spin down there out of turn number 2. And they got together, sent Joe right up into turn number 1.
It looked like Joe had moved up to give him plenty of room, and got a little bit loose getting down in there, Steve did, and they got together. He doesn't take
boy, man, he shoved that fuel cell back up in there pretty well. We know that cell is well protected, but Scott, they may have damaged the opportunity to fill that.
Yeah, the tail end of the car has moved over quite a bit. He should have enough fuel in the car. He stopped the last couple times. Yeah, the car has really got the tail end of it bent over.
Wow. Certain crew chief Chris Bradley talking to the driver saying, weave it back and forth. Do you feel any problems with the car? It looks severely shortened up, but the fuel cell is, what, about 8-12 inches in front of the rear bumper cover?
Yeah, it sure is, and they've got protective bars all the way around it, so I think they'll be in good shape there as far as the fuel cell is.
Let's take a look at this, Dave, and find out exactly what happened. Leader Steve Holtzhausen trying to go around Joe Knott.
As they get down into turn number 1, it looks like Steve just loses it, gets into Joe, sends him flying, and then the lead cars go everywhere down low to try to escape him. Doesn't look like they checked up too bad. They were already kind of coasting in the turn, Scott, so it's probably better that it happened while they were in the middle of the turn.
Here's another angle, and it looks like Holtzhausen, he may have gotten the left front in the grass, Scott, and that might have jostled them up a little bit.
Car wiggled just a little bit there, and well, like I say, it doesn't take much, especially when you get a little contact in the rear end of the car, entering a corner like this, things just want to come around on you in a hurry.
I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. You know, they figure in a long race like this, you're just out there cruising all the time. But, I mean, literally every lap you guys are on the edge.
Pretty much, yeah. When you get to a high bank racetrack, as I was saying earlier, you know, the cars are so fast, so competitive right now. You know, these guys are driving it for everything for what it's worth here, you know, this last 100 laps. And you're not going to see anybody hold back right now. You know, they know that they got the setup to go to the end. I'm surprised to see a few of the guys come in and make a final pit stop. It might be a factor. You know, the tires are going to come into play here.
As Joe Knott takes what looks like a Ford Escort down pit lane, let's get back down to the pits with Sandy Haig.
Well, I was talking about Holtzhausen just a little bit ago, and I tell you what, he's been battling a steering problem the entire race. And his crew says he's just been trying to keep the car on the track, and he's been having some problems with it. They did go ahead when he came in and changed the 2 rear tires, but he's been battling that, and it's not looking good for him right now.
All right, we'll see if that problem continues to accumulate and escalate for that team. And see if Sensiba can nail down his first win. What do you think Dave's going to do? He's waited 3 years to win his first ASA race. I'm not going to jinx him. I'm sure he'll just take one big breath to go, whoo.
Oh, boy.
I'll tell you, it's a long way to go yet. You got, you know, Brad's got one of the best cars I've seen him have in a long time. Mike Eddy still wants to show everybody that he's a lot better than his 12th, 13th, whatever he is in points. He can still win some races here.
We've had 9 different drivers win races this year. These were 2 drivers at the point right now coming into the season we thought for certain would have a win by this point in the 96 campaign. 3 races remain. The race is yet a long shot from being over here as Dave Sensiba leads them back to green. Always a single file restart, and we'll get Brad Loney, Mike Eddy, Tony Roper, and Ted Smokestad to follow through. Buddy Schrock having a great run in 6th, and the Team Unidial Chevrolet hangs right with that bunch.
Here they go. Loney peering to the inside, trying to make the move early and settle things. He's got that damage to the left front when he punted a tire on pit road, but he still has quite a quick car. Scott, you mentioned Dennis Berry's hood earlier might have tightened up the car a little bit. What about that damage to Loney's front left?
Well, it's pretty hard to see from here, but, you know, all the aerodynamics make a big difference on these cars now with the speeds that they're traveling out here. So, the thing of it is, when you go back green after a caution, it takes a little bit for each car to come into play here. You know, some of them will be, cars will be a little loose, some will be a little tight until they get their tire program back in order. But I'll tell you, Dave's car looks really good right now.
Sensiba is your leader. Running second is Loney. Third is Mike Eddy. Fourth is Tony Roper. In 5th is Smokestad. 6th is Buddy Schrock. Running 7th is Kevin Sawinski, trying to hold off Tony Raines. In 9th is Steve Holtzhausen. And in 10th is Gary St. Amant. So St. Amant working his way back through, but it doesn't look like he's as quick as the leaders at this point in the race.
Sawinski's got a definite engine problem, too. When he goes by, you can hear it. I'm surprised he's able to keep up the way he is. Maybe it is just a valve spring, but I'll tell you, when you try and run those things that hard, you know, something's got to give way, and just hopefully they'll be able to hold on to the end of the race.
We're watching the battle for 5th here for a while there, between Ted Smokestad and Buddy Schrock. Now we're back up to Dave Sensiba, the leader, and Brad Loney pressuring him with Mike Eddy in the rearview mirrors.
And Automotive Promotions team of Bud Gevin and driver Dave Sensiba have really worked on being consistent, being steady. You don't hear a lot about Dave Sensiba. You don't hear him talking too loudly. You don't hear him doing a lot of things other than focusing on race weekend to do well here. Michigan driver is certainly showing the way. Middle of a Michigan native holding off Cedar Rapids, Iowa's Brad Loney. 70 laps to the finish of this one. It's the Toledo 400 live on TNN Motorsports. Mike Eddy chasing down what could be a first-time winner here in Toledo. Live at Toledo Speedway under green flag conditions. You've got a visual update of what may have gone on throughout the race. A great job back in the production truck, but we know that Joe Nott is running around at a very slow pace. We know the pace continues to click off for Dave Sensiba, the race leader. He's settled into a 5-car length lead now in this battle of the Pontiacs. Brad Loney, the Bun Saver Pontiac, along with Mike Eddy, running in 3rd position. 15-car lengths better than
battle for 5th here, as Tony Raines is going to take over that spot. Tony Roper is in 4th in front of him, but he takes 5th away from Ted Smokestad, dumping Smokestad back to 6th.
As they tap dance behind Pat Bordeaux Chevrolet. Down the backstretch now, they'll clear the 44 car of Saginaw, Michigan.
Bordeaux going right now in 14th position.
Buddy Schrock running real good in 7th.
Doing a great job in that team unit out of Chevrolet. Running 8th, Gary St. Amant in the wins. Burt transfer forward. As we get a great chance to see the competitors on this half-mile Toledo. There's Harold Fair in the CarQuest AC-Delco Pontiac.
Harold has now gone 2 laps down. He runs in 13th position.
Holtzhausen, the Meyer Stores, Red Baron Pizza Ford. On lead lap again, he tangled while leading there with the lap car of Joe Nott. He's now back under full song. In comes Kevin Sawinski.
Jim, he's currently being shown in 10th and hanging on, as it were. Doing pretty well, actually. He's not for having those motor problems. He's hanging in there.
Sawinski able to hold on to Steve Holtzhausen for the time being. And now comes the 15 of Dennis Berry taking over the ride after Brandon Sperling left the team after last race. Barry hoping to finish the season in the Microtel Inns Murray's Discount Auto Parts Pontiac.
And Barry is battling. He is running 11th right now, so he'll be chasing down Kevin Sawinski.
Now, Dave, earlier in the race, we saw a spectacular 360 pirouette by Tom Jones down the back straightaway. He's now got that 0 car back up and running. He said he's in desperate need of finding a major sponsor. So I guess by getting on the camera whichever way may help his cause.
Well, and persistence is the name of the game for Tom. He runs 24th right now. He's over 100 laps down off the pace. Here's Carl Muscatine and Bob Sineker. Carl Muscatine currently being shown in the 12th position, running extremely well in the Odessa Carbright Chevrolet. That young driver from Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Take a look at Bob Seneker. Now, Scott Hansen, you can comment how that right front fender may have tamed Seneker's charge to the front. He stayed on lead lap for the first quarter of the race. Without a right front fender, you think you wouldn't have as much leverage, shall we say, to get around here.
The aerodynamics of the car hurt a little bit, but he also had some shock problems and some suspension damage. The body works right now isn't the whole problem he's got going on. He probably had to put on a shock or something like that that wasn't set up for this racetrack.
Your leaders are going by Jack Landis, who's running in 15th. Bob Sineker's actually being shown in 16th right now.
As we continue to follow the progress, Dave Sensiba continues to click off laps, the 9th different leader this afternoon. Showing the way with 50 circuits left. Don't go anywhere. Back with more from Toledo. Brad Loney, the Bun Saver Pontiac, able to close within a car length. Suddenly he's found more speed than Mike Eddy. Eddy a little bit tight now, trying to keep that car to the bottom of the racetrack. He runs 3rd. Your race leader still is that white 4 car of Dave Sensiba. 2nd generation driver running in the 1st position. In 3rd, Mike Eddy. In 4th, Tony Roper. 5th is Tony Raines.
It's a long race, you know, and Dave's starting to hear things, feel things. You know, I've been there a lot of times. It's a fast racetrack, 400 laps. Wears on everything, cars, patience, drivers. I mean, it's just he's got an excellent looking race car. He looks like he's running good if he can just keep everything going his way here.
I want to say hey to a couple of our fans. One down south, Ryan Smith. Hang in there, buddy. We know you're dealing with some health problems down there from Waycross, Georgia. And he's 17 years old. And Ryan, hang in there, bud. We're glad you're watching ASA. We also want to give our best to Mike Stepien, who's a part-time scorer with the TNN broadcast. Mike's dad passed away Monday. And we feel for you, man. Hang in there.
Canadian car, Mike Eddy leading Tony Roper to the front if they can catch him. They are running 3rd and 4th on the racetrack, but Roper is the story now. The Child Star Chevrolet able to close in on Mike Eddy. At this point in the race, it's not uncommon for Mike Eddy to start checking out. I know veterans like yourself, Scott Hansen, and Mike Eddy and Bob Seneker. At this point in the race, you guys start to shine, but now it's Roper able to close in and make a run at Eddy.
I'll tell you, Tony and I were talking yesterday. Alan Kroll and Bob were over from the Penske Shock people, and Tony said his car was real tight. And I'll tell you, that might be becoming a big factor here. These other guys might have been getting loose and loosening up, and Tony didn't touch his car. The fact that the racetrack loosens up a little bit, he may have a real good race car.
Looks like Mike Eddy's not able to come off the corner as freely as he was. He's holding it down to the inside. Is that a loose condition, you think? He's holding it. Obviously, he's holding off Tony Roper right now, but earlier he was not able to keep his line.
Oh, wow. Hang on, Tony.
I saw Mike go into the first and second turn there, and I'm wondering if he's got a flat tire in the right front or something. The car looked like it was going up the racetrack. Like you say, he's not being able to turn it, and he's having to slow it way down. We've got a pass going on for the lead up here. I think Joe Knott's going to come up there.
And now Tony Roper has to worry about Tony Raines. Here are your leaders.
Yep.
You know, Roper's advantage may be his mother-in-law's birthday yesterday. Lenny, happy birthday to you. Your son-in-law is doing a great job out there in the 10 car.
Great racing action here. The best short track racing anywhere. 365 laps are into the AC-Delco Challenge Series run right here on TNN. 3 races remain next weekend. Salem, Indiana. Weekend after that, Jennerstown, Pennsylvania. Then the season finale in Kelly, North Carolina at Southern National Speedway, November 17th.
Oh, this is for the lead. 2 guys that have never won an ASA race battling out for it in turn 3. Loney has to back off. Sensiba holds the position.
For now, and Loney tries to gather back in. Brad may sit behind Sensiba and regather, but it does not look like he'll wait too long.
Brad's car's really coming off of turn 2 on the bottom there. He's going to get another run at him. Tony Raines, same thing, coming off of turn 2. Really good. Just got underneath Tony Roper.
Battle for 4th here as Raines goes underneath Roper. We thought Roper had a fast car. Here comes Tony Raines in that Greenburn Pontiac, really shaking things up, getting on the backside of Eddy. Roper could do nothing but step aside.
Jim Roper could not open the door on Eddy. Let's see if Raines does that and Roper follows him through. 3
of the top 5 competitors have yet to win an ASA race. 6 of the top 12 cars on lead lap have yet to find victory circle. So I would think Dave Sensiba, Brad Loney, prime candidates along with Tony Roper looking for their first win. Have 32 laps to figure it out.
Raines going to the high side now. Man, making a bold move on Mike Eddy coming off of turn number 4 now. Raines is going to be scored probably as a tie with the position, but in turn number 1, he puts the nose of his Pontiac ahead of Mike Eddy's.
I think you can see a problem there with Mike. The car was getting real tight on him. Mike's real hard to pass underneath. He'll give you all the room on the outside you need. You're going to pass for the lead.
Wow. Dave Sensiba hangs onto it.
Oh, they get together again.
And Loney backs off, lets Sensiba regather, and they'll go at it again.
Sensiba and Loney in a 30-lap shootout. It's down to short track Saturday night feature time. 30 laps remain in this 400-lap grind. Sensiba and Loney heating it up.
That's going to just help Tony Raines when those 2 guys get racing like that. He's going to be able to close right on in.
They're almost a straightaway in front of that 3rd place car of Tony Raines, who's now getting pressure from Tony Roper. It's a Tony and Tony show through turns 3 and 4, and Roper coming off the turns very well, going to the bottom side. He got a little bit loose that time.
Leaders are single file for the time being heading into traffic, so we'll keep our eyes here on, oh, there we go again, off back by Pat Bordeaux. The leaders single file will find a lot of traffic just ahead of them. That will be a benefit to Dave Sensiba.
I think something's going wrong with Tony Raines' car. He looks like he's developed, again, either a flat right front or something. He's doing everything he can to hang on there. The car goes up the racetrack. Tony Roper's going to come to the inside here shortly.
That again, the battle right behind our leaders, as you see on screen there. Tony Raines hanging on to 3rd for everything it's worth.
And Jim, Dave Sensiba's got to be thinking deja vu here, because as he gets pressured by Loney, remember it was him and Jay Sauter who got together here when Sensiba was leading a few races ago here at Toledo.
So as we see the leaders once again coming up on Jack Landis, you notice how loose these cars are getting. The sun has shone brightly down the front straightaway. The shade continues to be poured on the racetrack by these tall trees lining the back straightaway, but it is getting a little loose out there, a little greasy. Kevin Sawicki a few laps ago nearly lost it. He's now back under full song.
There we go.
We'll see if it works this time, and Loney to the inside. Sensiba has to give way. A new race leader. Once again, Brad Loney at the point. Sensiba trying to do everything he could to hold him off down the front stretch. Loney takes the lead.
It looks like Brad's car is quite a bit faster now, and Dave gave him plenty of room to race. He didn't just give him the position, but he gave him room to race him. Here's the gap back to 3rd place now. Tony Raines, Tony Roper, and Ted Smokestad sticking his nose in there as well.
Here comes Tony Roper to the inside. Like I said, Tony's car's picked up a big push in the middle of the corner. He just doesn't want to turn. You know, Tony Roper can get in.
Oh,
Ooh, they get together a little bit.
And Roper comes off the turn so well, and Raines drives him down. No love lost between those two drivers right now.
Raines trying to hang on to third position. Smokestad had a great opportunity to get ahead of those two, but he's smartly backed out of it as well. They continue third, fourth, and fifth. Roper now back under. Nope, now making Smokestad in fourth.
I don't think that battle's over by no means.
Smokestad's going to try the high side now. As Scott Hansen mentioned earlier, everyone giving the high side, but Roper works so well on the low side, he's looking for that opportunity.
Brad Loney checking out to a 4-car length advantage. This is the battle for third now. Raines and Smokestad. Let's get an update in the Cleanburn pit.
Well, I was just talking with Howie Letow, and he's afraid that Tony may have used up some of his tires coming through the pack, so it's going to be really difficult for him to hold everyone behind him.
And now Smokestad just a tick slower than Raines. If Raines has any problems, Smokestad has similar problems.
Meanwhile, our leaders, Brad Loney and Dave Sensiba. Sensiba has gathered it back up. He's going to go to the low side, going down the backstretch. Brad Loney may have a problem, but Dave Sensiba is going to take the lead.
Loney got loose with a little bit of nudge by Dave Sensiba. Now into this lap traffic for down the front stretch.
Tires are really becoming a factor here. Brad's car went real loose.
Loney was setting up to go around lap traffic. Sensiba jetted to the inside of him and off of turn number 2. It was a drag race, won that time by Dave Sensiba.
And Dennis Berry is going to be a factor here. He needs to give these guys room to race now for the win as he tries to go around the lap car of Pat Bordeaux. And Sensiba now leading down the backstretch. Brad Loney running in second. The third place battle is about a half a straightaway behind between Tony Raines, Ted Smokestad, and Tony Roper. Great racing here in ASA.
Here's that battle for third heading into turn number 1. Raines has that position. Smokestad had a run on him, but again, a couple lap cars got him. Here's the battle for the lead again, entering turn 3. Who's going to come out of 4 with the lead this time?
I'll tell you, you need 3-4 televisions for what's going on here.
And Loney letting Berry know it's time to move over.
15 laps to go.
Now Loney's got to collect himself back up, Scott, and concentrate on the 4 car, even though he's got lap traffic all around him.
He sure does. You know, same with Tony Roper here when he's coming for the third. You got to catch the guy first. You got to get there first and then worry about passing once you catch up.
So Tony Roper may be the most frustrated driver out there, trying to get around Smokestad, not able to do it. He lost the spot. Now he may be faster than both those drivers, but unable to pass here in the late stages.
I'll tell you, 15 laps ago, these cars will get wide. Been there myself.
Isn't there a template for that?
Yeah. Throw the template out. Throw that template out. Tony Raines is going to drive both lines, or all 3, depending on how many you count here at Toledo.
Raines in the white 87, 32 is Smokestad. Smokestad would like nothing better than a podium finish. Raines has the grasp of that now, running third.
Ted should get a good run here coming up off the corner. Tony's using up all the race.
Here's the lead down into turn number 3 off of 2. They were right on each other, and Brad Loney's going to try it again. 11 laps to go now for Loney to try to get around Dave Sensiba. Again, both of these drivers looking for their very first ASA victory.
Now again, 3 cars ahead of them. Kevin Sawinski will lead them through with Harold Thayer in tow. Again, Sawinski in a tail end of lead lap in 10th position. That's the black car just ahead of our leaders with 10 circuits remaining.
This is intense. Loney is all over Dave Sensiba. Harold Fair moves down. Very gentlemanly move. Here's the battle for third. Smokestad's going to go for it into the turn. He leaves Raines on the high side. He'll scoot through and go side by side out of turn 4.
Raines has 2 lap cars ahead of him, and the slower ones to the inside, so he'll get back that third spot.
Oh, unbelievable. Smokestad had no choice, Jim, but to back out.
The leaders are almost clear of traffic. They have Kevin Sawinski just ahead of them. And once again, we find the 33 car in the bottom of the 4. The 4 is Sensiba, 33 Loney.
Turn number 1 now, Sawinski on the inside. They'll have to go single file by him, and then a lot of open racetrack.
Kevin did a good job getting out of the way and let the leaders race for that.
Certainly did, and the leaders now regather. Clean racetrack ahead of Dave Sensiba. This may be the break Brad Loney is looking for. 8, make that 7 circuits to go in the Toledo 400.
Boy, they're going to lose that break fast, though. They're coming up on some more slower traffic. Out of turn 2, they nudge again. Loney's going to try to shoot to the inside. Sensiba shuts the door.
Loney doing what he can, making sure Sensiba is getting a little bit hot under the collar in these final circuits. Sensiba leading. He's led this late in a race prior to this, but has not garnered victory. He's crashed here in Toledo Speedway, running for the win with Jay Sauter a couple of seasons ago. He now has a battle with the 33 of Loney. Now Smokestack goes to the outside of Tony Raines.
This is for third. Raines comes off the corner extremely well as they head toward the start-finish line. Smokestack with no chance except to pass him on the outside. He's going to try it again, going down the backstretch. Here comes Tony Roper, and here comes Gary St. Amant as well.
Third, fourth, fifth, and sixth down the backstretch here. Toledo, 5 circuits to go.
Wow, look at Roper. He's going to stick his nose in there, hope that Raines chooses the right line, and take over fourth.
Lap traffic again may cause Roper to file in behind.
For the lead.
Leaders up at turn number 2 this time. It's Sensiba. Just enough horsepower. Powering that K-Tech motor under and past the 33 of Loney.
Here they go.
And here comes Loney. Loney's going to squeeze through. He's going to take over the lead. He let Sensiba gather it back up, then stomped on the throttle and put the Bud Saver Pontiac into the front spot.
What a great race. Only 2 circuits remaining. Loney coming off for the 4th turn now has a 2-car length lead.
This is still third. It's still up for contention. Smokestack has tried the high side. He has not been able to pass Tony Raines. And now Raines, they're going to have lap traffic to go around. Smokestack is stuck in 4th.
Classic pass for the lead in the very, very late stages. The white flag will be unfurled.
And now a little contact between the 2 Pontiacs. Smokestack down to the inside with lap traffic. Foiled again. Yes! Smokestack has to back out, and Tony Raines will go around the outside of Sawinski.
Raines has to be white-knuckling this one, Scott.
He sure has. Tony has caught the lap traffic really well.
The 10th different winner in ASA competition this season will be Brad Loney. Winning the event, Dave Sensible will finish 2nd, 3rd to Raines 4th, to Smokestack 5th, to the 10 car of Tony Roper, 6th to make that 6th to the number 7 car of Gary St. Amant, 7th unofficially to Buddy Schrock, 8th to Mike Eddy, unofficially 9th Steve Holtzhausen. All those cars finish on lead lap. Down in 10th position, 1 lap down, Kevin Sawinski.
Unbelievable racing, Jim.
Smokestack. Around the top 3. We'll come back and talk to him when we come back. Hugs and kisses abound. Brad Loney could not be happier. That monkey's off his back, boy, after running 3 years in ASA. Sandy Hang is down in what has to be a tear-filled, elated pit area.
Oh, you're right. There are tears here, Brad. What an incredible finish.
I've been thinking about this day for a long time, and this team probably is expected it to come sooner, and I thought it certainly felt like it was going to come sooner, but today's an unbelievably sweet day, I mean, we had a great car. Howe did a great job giving us a fantastic chassis. Pontiac gives us a wonderful car. I can't thank Bun Saver, Flex Steel Furniture, H&W Motor Express, Pennzoil. I mean, this has been something that we've been waiting for in this series for the last 5 years, and I'm not sure it's all part of things yet. I'm not quite sure it's all part of things. This is just incredible.
Oh, he's getting a bath here. Well, Brad, this crew has just been wonderful for Brad. The crew really put you where you needed to be, but in the end, it was you. You made the moves that you had to prove that you deserved to win this race. What were you thinking?
Oh, boy, when we were leading there with 20-some to go, I thought we were going to have a really difficult time getting around the 4 car, and in fact, he made a mistake and made it really easy to get by, but I got to hand it to him. He didn't lay down and settle for a second. He came right back and took it away from me again, and made it really hard for us to come back around him. And my hat's off to him and their team. And God, I can't wait to do this again.
Okay, that's a pretty happy Brad Loney right now.
Fantastic for Brad and the Bun Saver team. Jim, I mean, this was a weekend that was elation, devastation. They qualified 3rd, then they were dumped back to 30th because they missed the grid time, and now elation again.
Brad Loney becoming the 10th different winner on the season. It will put him solidly in the second half of the top 10 in points, and it's going to be a great race. And unfortunately for you, Scott Hansen, it makes it interesting for yourself because you will not be in the lead for the points heading into Salem next weekend.
No, we won't, but we're not going to give up. This team's, they're really good, and they're going to go back there. We'll get the car set up for there and maybe come back, sit on a pole there, and try and lead some more laps there. I really want to thank you guys for having me up here, and hopefully we come back and we can be watched on the TV and
Scott,
instead of here.
I understand that you have put in resignation at the Jerry Gunneman All-Star Racing Team. Why don't we have you up here? What's the situation?
Yeah, I sure have. Jerry's been fantastic to myself and this whole team, and I'm sure Jerry's going to keep going on in racing. And I've just got a couple things in the works right now that I'm hoping come through, but right now there's nothing going for Scott Hansen for next year, but we're just going to wait and see what takes place, and I'm sure I'll be out here, you know. I don't know how you guys watch these races from. We needed 4 televisions up here at all times to see what's going on. I couldn't do this every day.
Well, thanks, Scott Hansen, for joining us here today, and a great job and a great insights up here in the booth. Unfortunately, a short day after winning the pole. Let's find out what happened from Dave Sensiba's point of view. A great run finishing second today, Sandy.
Well, I tell you what, Dave's got to be happy to be here today, a podium finish. What was going through your mind those final laps when you were battling with Brad Loney?
We really did. You know, we thought we might have had a victory here. I really wanted this one being the last time ASA is going to run here. My dad won track championship here years ago, so it meant a lot to me. Brad did what he had to do to win the race, and we come up a little short.
But I tell you, it was a great finish there. You pushed. You pushed him not once, but twice.
Yeah, you know, he got the lead, and then we swapped back, and, you know, I couldn't hold him off. We were a little loose getting off, but we could get in better than he could, and, you know, he did what he had to do. I was loose, and he tapped me a little bit, and, you know, that's racing, and, you know, congrats go out to Brad.
Okay, that's Dave Sensiba with the second-place finish here today.
Sensiba, a great run. We'll come back and find out how things shake out here at Toledo. Stick with us. Brad Loney, the winner today of the Toledo 400. Here's a look at the top 10. Back at Toledo Motor Speedway, coming up tonight at 6 on TNN, NHRA Sears Craftsman Nationals live from Topeka, Kansas. Stick around for that here on TNN. And there's Dave Sensiba and Brad Loney, the top 2 finishers. Finishing third was Tony Raines and Dave Burns. Here's the wins winning move. We see the 2 Tonys battling it out, but in the picture comes our wins winning move driver, Ted Smokestad.
Smokestad in the 32 is going to find his way by when Roper and Raines bump, and he's going to come to the high side here, way high, and go around Tony Roper. He didn't get the position from Tony Raines, but Ted Smokestad for that move gets our wins winning move.
Looking at how things shake out, the wins winning move. Again, when it's wins, it works, and boy, it sure worked great for those top 5 finishers today. And looking at how things shake out, Loney the winner, Sensiba second, Raines third. You see the top 10 here, and Sawinski holds on for a 10th place finish after his car faded late in the going. And we're off to Salem, Indiana next Sunday. Catch action live here on TNN. Check your local listings for start times. And looking at how the points shake out, it's going to be Tony Raines, the point leader, over Gary St. Amant. Third will be Bob Seneker. Out of the lead, then Hansen and Sensiba. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jim Trento. Thanks, Dave Burns. Thanks, Sandy Hang. Thanks.